Welcome back, guys. Birds of a Feather live on A2D Radio. A2DRadio.com, live from the BMW of Atlantic City studios. BMW of AtlanticCity.com. First half brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountant. Please make them yours. GibsonMayer.com. Stream Smart poll not Stream Smart. Damn it, Scanzano Sports. I was doing so good too. Scanzano Sports poll question brought to you. Here we have it. We're talking Eagles, guys. We're talking injury concerns. So, Scanzano Sports wants to know, how concerned are you over Timmy Jernigan's injury? Not concerned. Slightly concerned. Very concerned. I'm friggin' panicking. Join us on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, wherever you want to join us. Chrome, got Paulie here live with us in the studio again from NBC Sports Philadelphia. Ryan Brodo on the ones and twos. Inconspicuous by his absence. Charles is not with us this week, and he won't be with us next week. He's got better. He's got better things to do. Apparently, he's too cool for us. Too cool for school. You know what I mean? But
nerve on that guy.
How dare him? SOB.
So but I think we had to say just thank you so much to Eddie Van Halen for doing the intro song.
It's so good. Little air guitar action. Did anybody see the video that was going around on Facebook, by the way, this week? It was like some weird thing with like older people, and they were having an air guitar contest.
No,
I have not.
It was the weirdest video. It was like, it looked like they were in an auditorium, like a gym or auditorium, or like a theater at like Paul Six, you know.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like this dude on stage judging an air guitar contest with like these like older people, like borderline almost senior citizen people, and like these like random people are doing this air guitar. This is the weirdest video. I'm telling you. Anyway. Got a little
Dude,
already.
I'm like a little triggered already because of that headline I just showed you.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah,
Did you see that?
I didn't.
Article on ESPN.
Oh, well, here we. That's a good way to lead.
Exactly. Exactly.
Makes sense, but go ahead.
Is Donovan Mitchell the next Allen Iverson?
Here we go.
So throw it.
Well, we're going to talk Sixers talk in the second half.
Unreal.
So we will
certainly
talk. We can definitely touch on that as well, which is insanity. But, you know, we're going to talk Eagles. We got rookie camp getting ready to come up. We're going to talk a few things with that with Paulie. So, yeah, guys, join the conversation. You already are. Mike Mataraki, slightly concerned. They have good depth on the D-line, but Jernigan was definitely going to be looked upon for the increased leadership and production this season. Clay Ferguson, not concerned at all. He's not a part of the best D-line in the league. Philly only has the second best. Maybe. Not.
All right. I guess is that a Rams fan? Is that what's happening?
Maybe. I don't know. Tom Arnone, Thomas Kennedy McMahon Arnone, jumping in here. Zero concern. Let's go. David Roscoe, what's up, boys? What's up, David? David's already talking Trish Stratus in here. I saw that earlier. Yes, I know. She's a 7-time champion, and she's smoking hot. We're going to be talking. He said, "Do you know she's a 7-time champion?"
Oh.
Of course I know that. That's
fun fact.
Foolish question to ask me there, David Rosca.
The more you know.
We'll be talking wrestling on Thursday night on Lazy Booking. And then I commented and said, "Let's go, boys." So, or "Let's go, fam."
Hey, thanks for chiming in.
Yeah,
Thanks for the engagement. Thank you.
Frank Vespi started bothering you at work. No concern at all. Next man up. How are you guys feeling in regards to? It's a hit. Let's be realistic.
Yeah, it's got to be at least somewhat of a concern. You know, the guy was a starting defensive tackle next to Fletcher Cox.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely somewhat of a concern. You do have a little more depth. You lost Bo Allen, but you replaced him with Halil Unada, who I think still has a little something left in the tank, especially on running downs. Behind him, though, I mean, you're a little thin. I mean, you're going to be using, obviously, Michael Bennett, and you're going to be using Brandon Graham inside in a lot of situations. A lot of third downs, it's going to be one of those, too, with Fletcher Cox on the inside. But beyond that, as far as backup tackles go, I mean, you have a lot of question marks. I mean, Destiny Vile, they've kept him around, so they obviously like him.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really seen much out of him that I really said, yeah, okay, I want this guy to stick around. I like Elijah Qualls coming out of Washington. I think the kid can play a little bit. I think he's a good athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much they love him.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you have a couple other guys that are like, this is like kind of deep roster cut guys that maybe like me and Charles would be the only people that know what we're talking about. We have Aziz Shitu.
We know that.
Yeah.
Aziz Shitu. Okay.
Yes, Shitu.
I'll remember that name now.
Yeah, you can't forget that name. He was a lineman from Stanford that they were high on. He's like hung around practice squad and so forth. Then there's other guy, Winston Craig from Richmond, who they really like. They brought in last year as an undrafted free agent. Again, like hung around, practice squad, all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay.
So, I mean, they have guys who they might, compete for the backup roles. But I think to say somewhat concerned is totally fair.
So I'm reading over here on the YouTube.
I was going to actually ask, can you man the YouTube since our
sure.
YouTube guy's gone tonight?
Sure. So the Foolish Demon chimes in, but I'm looking at the timestamp. So obviously, if you didn't already know, now you know, the show usually starts at 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So he chimed in at 6:37 p.m. So
Wow.
he said 84 minutes early, but it doesn't matter. Fly, Eagles, fly. Bleed green
Love that, by the
till
way.
I die. We all we need. Super Bowl champs, baby. And then he comes back in after David Roska says the 76ers need to make a comeback with a win in Game 5, which we all agree with.
Yes.
He says he'll be back sooner than later. We got Vio and Qualls. That just means more packages with Bennett kicking inside. And then he says you have a line with Barnett, Cox, Bennett, and Graham, ?
As far as the starters go?
I believe so. I believe that's what he's asking.
Yeah. I mean, I think Chris Long and Barnett are going to kind of compete for that. I don't think Bennett's So my thing is this. In the NFL, starters don't really matter. Unless you're like talking about starting quarterback or starting like offensive lineman. Starters don't matter. It really doesn't. You're going to have some variation of these five of like Graham, Bennett, Barnett, Cox, Nada, and maybe Chris Long. Like some combination of those 6 players will probably start every game. I just don't know which, depending on if a team comes out in a spread formation in the first play, Nada's not going to be on the field. You know what I mean? So it depends on a lot of stuff.
In my opinion, to your point, when you talk about, starters really don't matter in this certain situation, it would only matter if we didn't have any depth, if we didn't have anybody around it. If you only had 1 or 2 really good or above average linemen, then yeah, of course the starters matter because aside from them, then it's complete trash. But in this situation, listen, it's a concern when anybody goes down. I mean, it's going to have an effect, especially if he is a starter. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about that run defense, which he was a major part of last season,
sure.
And you look at, like we talked about last week, going into next season, the running backs we're going to have to face just in this division alone. Obviously, Barkley with the Giants, obviously Geis with the Redskins, and then obviously Ezekiel Elliott with the Cowboys, just to name 3 guys on every team.
2 guys, 3 guys you got to face twice a year.
Yes, exactly. So, and then obviously you can go deeper into those running back cores, which we did last week. But it's a concern, but it's nothing to panic about. I'm not going to deduct a win or 2 because of his loss, but it's a concern, obviously, because he was a role player. He was good last year.
But what are we looking at, a 4 to 6 month time frame, correct?
Yeah. I think they said 4 to 6.
If we're saying worst case scenario 6 months, we're looking at what, November? The one benefit we have, too, is a lot of those divisional games are in the second half of the season. So when you're talking about having to face these guys twice a year, they have the luxury of that window in the early part of the schedule. So I don't think it's a hit. I don't think it's as bad. And again, this defense has been built around that depth on that defensive line. I mean, obviously we have a really strong defensive backcourt and all that now. And you talked last week, people don't realize that how deep we are in the linebacker position as far as depth. But we know where the core of this team was built, where the money was put into for this team. But we have that benefit that we don't have, because those are the games that I'm honestly more concerned about, making sure that we are at full strength at that point.
And it's a fair thing, too. They rely, as we talked about, they rely on depth. They rely on a rotation. So if Jernigan can come in midway through the season, it gives them a little boost. You get some guys rest towards the end of the season. It helps, it helps preserve Fletcher Cox and Nada a little bit down the stretch. So, I mean, hopefully hopefully he can come back and just give them a little something and just be another piece.
Or even, I mean, listen, even if we go 6-2 strong in the first half of the season, maybe there's not a need to rush him back.
Sure.
Take a little bit of time, make sure that he's 100% and fresh to go, not just for that second half, but for the playoffs. The Eagles have done a very, very, very good job on offense and defense of rotating guys, knowing when a guy needs to have a little bit of a break and take a little bit of a step back, and making sure that the next guy who fills in is in a position to succeed. So I'm not overly concerned. I would say slightly concerned.
I see. The shame of it to me is this: Tim Jernigan's a pretty good player.
He's a damn good player.
And man, it's a herniated disc. He's still a young dude. And now they restructured his deal. It's essentially a 1-year deal. So if he's got a herniated disc and he comes back and he's not right, he's going to be looking for work, man. It's not going to be like it just I just feel bad for the guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't really know the circumstances of what happened too either. It seems so odd that just randomly, oh yeah, here we go, he's having a hernia surgery.
Well,
Yeah.
Cool.
Apparently, from my understanding, it happened obviously in the off season.
Yeah.
It was I don't know if it was a freak thing. I don't know if it was. I don't know what the hell happened. And obviously,
non-team workout.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's what
Yeah.
was his contract
Yep.
out or whatever. Yeah.
I'll ask you guys this, and obviously the people at home as well. When you talk about concerns, obviously for Timmy Jernigan, what is your biggest concern as an Eagles fan involving this offseason? If it's an injury, if it's working out a certain position, if you had to name your biggest concern before the season, what would it be? And it's hard because obviously, how many concerns can you name with a defending Super Bowl champion team?
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
And, like, my concerns aren't even, like – concerns would be completely overstating it. Like, one of the things the cornerback situation is kind of odd, but it's not a concern because the only reason it's like that is because there's depth there.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's going to play where. I don't know who's going to get snaps. I don't know if anyone's going to – if Jalen Mills loses snaps on the outside, is he going to feel a certain way about it? I don't know. Is Sidney Jones going to be – I personally think Sidney Jones is going to be a stud. I think he's going to be a lockdown, shutdown corner.
Me too.
But what if he comes out and he's not? You know what I mean? And then what happens to his confidence? So, I mean, those are things I guess, I'm slightly concerned about. But, like, there's nothing – like, to your point, there's nothing glaring. There's nothing I would say, like, oh, man, like, this is a really big thing I'm really going to be watching for in camp. I'm really worried about this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know that I have any major concerns because, you could easily say Carson Wentz, and is he going to come back the same player?
Sure.
That's probably just my biggest concern. I think he's still, at worst case scenario, I think he's going to come back at a very, very high level. But when you saw the specialness in him, I would hate to see something that's going to take away from that. But even, like, you could talk about the turnover in the coaching staff, but they kept things in-house. You still have the same defensive coordinator with Schwartz. So I'm not overly concerned about that because how many times do we talk about, how many organizations are going to cherry-pick our coaches away, and then what are we going to do to make sure that we maintain that status quo and that culture? And they made the right decision, in my opinion, as far as all those moves. Running back, we're concerned, all right, now we lost LeGarrette Blount. Well, they went and bought back Sproles. They have a little bit of depth now in the running back position. Whether you love it or not, they're bringing Terrence West in for a look. And let's just address it because it's been something that's been mentioned. If it's a camp invite to give the guy a shot to get the 4th spot, why not? He might show us something.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what it is. And Paulie, you and I kind of touched on it before the show. And I'm very confident in what they're doing is – so obviously you have 2 spots that are locked up completely. It's 100%. The top of your running back rotation or core, however you want to phrase it, is obviously Ajayi and Clement. I mean, it should go without saying. I don't even need to, remind people of that. Then you look at 4 running backs, and you would say that Sproles is obviously going to be back in some role. He's not going to get cut by any means unless he is an absolute disaster.
He's a primary punt returner too. So
exactly. You have 4 running backs that are looking for roles. You have Sproles, you have Smallwood, you have Pumphrey, and if they do indeed sign Terrence West, you have
Josh Adams.
And Josh Adams. So that's 5, okay? I see those 5 fighting for 2 spots. You say, okay, and then you can say, okay, Sproles by default already has one on this roster because, like we said, he has other things he can offer, obviously catching out of the backfield, punt returning, etc. So I think Terrence West, as a veteran, is going to come in as almost competition for the younger guys.
Push
Smallwood
the young kids.
and Pumphrey, because like we've talked about before, and it's becoming, especially on the YouTube side, people know anytime you mention Pumphrey, I go crazy. I go nuts. You can't assume Pumphrey's going to be anything. You can't, unfortunately. Even if he was a first-round pick, after the first year, you can't assume anything.
Can I assume he's not going to be anything?
That's fair, and I agree. That's absolutely. Second that, third that. Hey, I'm sure there's people at home that agree.
No, so to your point, I think that's a really good point. I think that's fair. I think that's right. I would take it a step further and say it's this. They have kind of all these backs that fit into this mold. They lost LeGarrette Blount, They don't have that big bruising power back.
Mm-hmm.
They signed Josh Adams as an undrafted free agent. They bring in Terrence West. My thing is that what they see in Josh Adams and what they like out of him, if they can bring that out enough for him to be the fourth back, that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't work out and they can't get him where they want him to be, Terrence West is your insurance.
Terrence West is an extreme insurance policy, in my opinion,
Agreed.
because you cannot throw a bunch of stock into Pumphrey because of obviously what we said. We can't put a ton of stock into Smallwood because we've seen him good in small, very small sample sizes. And other times he either goes cold or he can't stay healthy. And he can't catch, he can't catch punts or kicks.
Can't pass protect.
So he's extremely limited on that end. So it's not even like he can be a special teams guy.
Yep.
Josh Adams, like you said, if he might have a high upside. We don't know. So it's kind of like if we throw high stock and saying 100% one of those three guys that have extreme risk, extreme question marks are going to be on this team, that's not sustainable because for the most part, if you guarantee one of those guys a roster spot without seeing much from them, for the most part, you're only running with a 2 running back core. Clement and Ajayi and a guy you really don't know about. And Sproles, who is kind of a hybrid for the most part. And that's nothing against Sproles. It's just what he is.
Yeah. No, I agree. But, I mean, I'll read here because there's a couple other concerns that were thrown out here, so let's discuss them.
Yeah.
Dion says, peace, what up, fellas? Let's go. Poll question.
Dion.
Any injury to a starter? Dion's our boy. Any injury to a starter is concerning, but we did well at that position in free agency and via trade with Bennett. Whatever happened, it appears he played through the entire season. Did he? I think he did.
He had like a torn pec or something like that, or torn bicep. Yeah, he had a pretty bad injury. And
Plus, we again have depth at that position, so he can return at 100% and not have to rush back. I agree. Jonathan Dolan says wideout depth. I would be interested, Jonathan, why. If you can, chime in and let me know why that's a concern for you.
Alshon Jeffrey, they just signed Mike Wallace, who we all know in this program that I am a huge Torrey Smith defender.
As am I.
And Mike Wallace is an upgrade over Torrey Smith.
Mike Wallace is a much cheaper, way more productive Torrey Smith at this point.
And Nelson Aguilar is a much improved player. You still have, and I'm counting this, you still have Zach Ertz, who's a 1,000-yard tight end. And then on the other side, you just put a guy who I thought was a first-round tight end on the other side. You still have Matt Collins. I mean, I don't really have big concerns about their depth receiver.
I have none whatsoever.
Two things with that. Number one, I have said numerous times, and I will stand by this. Mike Wallace will be the steal of the offseason.
Oh, for sure. I agree.
It's a lock. Like, I have no – we will look back years from now and say, how much – wait, we got Mike Wallace for that?
Mike Wallace will be the LeGarrette Blount signing of this year.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I like it.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I completely agree.
And when that happens, you will get the credit for saying that because
we could share the credit.
I have been more than happy all season taking the LeGarrette Blount credit when everybody shit on it at first, and I said this guy is going to be a friggin' player on this team. He is so undervalued. It blew my mind that New England just let him walk.
Now,
I know he's coming off of that huge year.
Yes.
And guys tend to regress. But in the right scenario, knowing how this team operates.
Now, who had made the comment about the wide receivers being the concern? What was his name?
That was Jonathan Dolan. So I'd like to give Jonathan an opportunity to I want to hear what his concerns are.
What I'll say to Jonathan as well is,
I mean, some people don't like Mike Wallace, so maybe that is a concern. Or maybe he's looking at why. I mean, it's not a wide out, but maybe he's looking at including all pass catchers essentially and looking at tight end where I agree with you, first round talent we got in the second round. But regardless, it's a question mark because he's never played a down in the NFL. And you're used to having guys, but you're used to having guys like Brent Selleck as, knowing what you have behind Zach Ertz. There's question marks there. Well, so I can understand that idea. I don't agree with it, but I can understand it.
I'll just go through it as, and I'll describe it as an entire not receiving core, receiving options, and obviously that transcends just the wide receiver position. Obviously going into this season, you have Alshon, you have Nelson, You have Mike Wallace. You have Marcus Wheaton. You have Hollins. That's 5.
Forgot about Marcus Wheaton.
Another deep threat.
Yeah.
Okay?
I was going to mention that's another guy. And these are guys that are coming in who may or may not make the roster.
Yeah.
But they're
Worth
guys
taking
who
a
are going to
flyer.
make the guys.
Yeah.
These are guys who are going to make. They're going to try to push other guys at least in camp to get the best out of them. The Eagles have so many options at this point at wide receiver. They will make sure that they have productive wide receivers on this football team.
Well, that's just
and still cut other guys who probably will make a decent push.
As we talk about what Terrence West could be as far as insurance.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what not even insurance, but what Marcus Wheaton is if Mac Hollins doesn't progress the way they wanted to see, if guys like Shelton Gibson don't show any, Greg Ward, all those kind of guys that were kind of like fringe roster players, if they don't show up in camp and they don't show the necessary progression from year 1 to year 2, that's what Marcus Wheaton's there for.
completely agree with you. So we just named 5 guys in one position. So that is your wide receiver core. The reason why I said receiving options is because it transcends just one position.
Yeah.
Then we go to tight end, all right? And we went through this list before they signed Wheaton and obviously Goddard. So that was one less tight end, one less receiver. Now you have Zach Ertz and Goddard. So those are 2 other receiving options. So that's 7.
Yep.
Then you go to running backs. And this is where we get cute. Darren Sproles, he can catch. Ajayi, he can catch.
You could put Sproles up on the line.
Yeah.
Put him in the slot.
Oh, and there's another guy. There's a guy, his name's Corey Clement. He can catch. He did in the Super Bowl.
100 yards
What's up,
receiving in
sir?
the Super Bowl.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have all those guys that can go through. When someone says receiving options is a concern, I don't know. That's the least of my concern.
No, and I mean that's why I would at least like to hear what his specific reason to be concerned is, because it's one of those ones I'm scratching my head on it. Some things I guess I kind of understand the idea of it, but I don't agree with it at all. It's crazy.
Over on
and
YouTube,
talking it out even more so.
Over on YouTube, a couple concerns people had said. Let's see. Foolish Demon says, biggest concern to me is if Wentz is recovering well enough to play week 1.
Fair.
Cameron Richardson said offensive line age, especially on the left side. It's fair. And he says, and
fair.
that's reaching.
And really, and
so
also with Peters coming back from a major injury
Right.
like he has, but
But
who's behind him? We had Vaitai, who played more than adequately, particularly when the playoffs started.
But honestly, I would say along the line, it's Peters. Kelsey was just an all-pro and arguably had the best season of his entire career at, 30?
And cut the greatest promo.
Oh, of course. So, I mean, I'm not really worried about his age. I mean, Lane's young. Brandon Brooks is young. Wisniewski's not old, and he's still here for another 2 years. Or he might have signed it. He's either here for 3 or 2 more years. You still have Warmack, who you re-signed. You still have Sayamalo. I mean, really, left tackle is the only position where you could say there's a legitimate age concern.
No, I could agree with that.
But he admitted it was a reach.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
and with the age concern is the age coming back from a major
right,
injury.
for sure.
Let's see. Cameron Richardson says running back rotation should be Ajayi, Clement, Sproles, and Adams. Pumphrey on the practice squad. Foolish Demon says receiving corps is the least of my concern. Foolish Demon says Jeffrey Hollins, Wallace, Aguilar, Ertz, Goddard, and Wheaton maybe. He also says Richard Rodgers can catch. Shelton Gibson as well, and he said Clement had 2 of the best catches on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So that's it at the moment for YouTube.
Yeah, John Malmus says, so what do we do with the extra money? Use it for BG? Another D tackle for depth. My concern is middle linebacker. Hicks is always hurt. Will this be Jason Peters last season? He'll be 37, which we kind of just touched on that. How do you guys feel about Hicks in the middle linebacker position?
Well, so they won a Super Bowl without Hicks. So, no, I'm just like Hicks is a really good player, and if having him makes your defense better. My point is, you just re-signed Bradham,
Right.
And Bradham was essentially your middle linebacker all season. You still have Michael Kendricks on the roster who was there as well. You saw, I mean, I still like Nathan Gary a little bit. That's the kid they signed, drafted out of Nebraska last year, who was converted from a safety. I still like him a little bit. I think he can play a little bit. He's not playing again. Bradham would assume more of that like kind of middle linebacker role. Even though it's funny because like they don't really with how teams line up anymore, first of all, you don't have 3 linebackers on the field that much at all. So, if anything, that middle linebacker spot, quote unquote, like what Donnell Ellerbe did last year, that's almost like that could almost be like your minimal role. You know what I mean? Like that can be your guy getting like 10 snaps a game. So I mean, if that's like a Paul Warlow, if that's the role he fills, because that's what he can do. He can hit a little bit, he can run a little bit. So he could be the kind of guy who could just be an okay backup as far as like fill that role of 10 snaps a game.
Mm-hmm. John Malmus also says goodbye to Pumphrey, say goodbye to Smallwood. Agree.
Yeah, agree.
Dion says, at the top of my short list of concerns is can the new offensive coordinator call the same type of plays as Reich did
Doug's offense.
Dougie P. Yeah.
It's Doug's offense.
It's Doug's offense. I wouldn't be concerned about that,
nope.
Dion.
Press Taylor's there, or no, it's not Press. It's Grow. Grow's there to help out. He's not there to run the show.
Yeah.
It's Doug's offense.
Greg Malakovic, what up, fellas? You bastards are having fun, and I'm still working. Slightly concerned to very. Yes, we have the depth, but Timmy was so crucial last year. But hopefully half the snaps brings the newly refreshed Nada beasting people. Have a good show, fellas. Thanks, brother. I agree with him, by the way, on all that. Aaron Mercer, Sixers in 7.
Woo!
I don't hate it.
That would be pretty awesome.
I don't hate it.
How awesome would it be to do that to the city of Boston twice, too?
Well, I know we're going to get more in depth in the second half for the Sixers, but I did say this and you agreed with me, and me and Ryan talked about it too. If they win Game 5, there's no doubt in my mind they'll win Game 6.
Agreed.
I'm not gonna say they're definitely gonna win out and get Game 7. That's tough. It's gonna be a tough matchup in Boston, but I think that at the very least they will push it to 7 games if they win in Boston.
That's what what I was always taught growing up is you get it to a Game 7, anything can happen. So there you go. That's all you got to do. Like, yeah, I completely agree. If they can figure out a way to scrap and put one more win in Boston tomorrow night, yeah, there's no doubt they're coming back. They're going to Game 7. They'll win that Game 6 in Philly.
Oh yeah. All right. So Jonathan Dolan says, "Sorry guys, I'm having phone issues, but with your going on, hope. If you look at the statistics for your receivers for last year, when you had a monster quarterback, they don't add up. If Alshon Jeffrey goes down, you can flat out take Zach Ertz out of the offense. No matter how much you think Aguilar has improved, he's not improved enough to take a number 1 role if need be. Mike Wallace's stats are good every third year. Sorry about the misspelling. He's doing voice talking. So, no problem, buddy. And then he said, then you would have to put too much weight on Ajayi to carry the offense. This team will never only rely on the running game. That's for sure.
No, and so part of what made their receiving game so good, their passing game so good, is that, yes, we call Alshon Jeffrey a number 1. This offense doesn't really have a number 1. That's what made them so good last year. You know what I mean? Statistically wise. And then not only so I don't know what he's talking about with Mike Wallace. He had 1,000 yards 2 years ago. He had 748 last year.
And he hasn't been a number 1 featured wide receiver in a long time.
So he's had one quote-unquote down year when he was in Minnesota. He only played he only started 12 games, and that Minnesota team just wasn't – they didn't pass the ball well. And he had for 73 yards. But other than that, he's had 748 or more yards every single season.
And, again, not the featured wide receiver.
Also, before Antonio Brown really emerged, and before all those guys really emerged, and Le'Veon and all that.
And again, you're talking about a guy who is essentially, you're looking at Alshon Jeffrey, Aguilar, Zach Ertz. At the very least, those 3 are your 3 options, likely above him,
right?
In terms of who's going to get the most looks.
And Mike Wallace is going to help out Zach Ertz so much.
He is, absolutely.
He's going to help. Because, again, I am the staunchest of the staunch Torrey Smith defenders, but Mike Wallace, at this point in his career, is a better football player than Torrey Smith.
Yeah, yeah.
And he puts more fear into a defense than Torrey Smith did last year.
Absolutely. Marcus Billups, Foolish Demon, revealing himself.
Oh.
He says, it's okay, guys. Foolish Demon is here on Facebook. When you're looking at a scenario that may not happen, totally disagree. This is a deep receiving core. Jonathan says, I don't see anybody able to stop the Eagles in the NFC anyway, so is it really a scare? You're right. I mean, I don't know if I don't see anybody. I think it's going to be a tougher NFC this year with.
Well, that's what it is. A lot of teams improved.
Yes.
Including the ones in your own division. I think all 3 teams in the division improved themselves.
Agreed. And I think that we improved ourselves.
Absolutely.
So it's
absolutely.
It's
going to be fun, man. The Packers are going to get Rodgers back. I mean, the Saints, they improved, but now they're going to be losing Mark Ingram for the first 4 games.
And I think the benefit for the league is that the Eagles aren't going to be a surprise team this year. They're going to be a team that people expect to be good. So
the book is out.
The book is out. It's going to be interesting to see now, a year after a Super Bowl, how the coaching staff approaches things differently this season, when you're knowing that the book is out, that teams have had months and months to study film and study the offense and study the defense.
Going from underdog to top dog, that's what it means.
Yeah.
Got a target on your back.
Yeah, and he says, you're looking at numbers that you hope happen and haven't yet? No, those are real numbers.
Yeah, dude.
Those are real numbers. He literally read them off.
He had 1,000 yards 2 years ago, and he had 748 last year.
Yeah,
he's only had one season,
numbers.
Only one season below 748 yards in his entire career.
On a lot of really loud.
So if he puts up 748 yards here with like a handful of touchdowns, cool. I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Marcus Bill says he says that's a complete reach, not at all. Talking about what you were with the stats and stuff. Dion says, guys, it's May 8th, but as of right now, does Josh Adams make this team and get quality reps? For example, Clement last year. And if so, give me a player who at any position be on cut to make room. Let's use the crystal ball. Who would be someone that might get cut?
Well, touching on Josh Adams first, I think Adams has a better than decent shot to make the team. I think they're going to give him every opportunity to make the team as a fourth running back, as a power back. It's going to be up to him. He's got flaws. He should. He's sick. Shoulder pad. So again, no one. Hendricks is the team, but he'll probably get traded because he still has some value. He played pretty well last year. His contract's now is leaning to the point now where it's not bad. The Steelers would be a great fit for him.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we talked about Terrence West as a potential insurance policy. If he's not ready and he's on the practice squad for a year, so be it. You know, it buys him time to really sit back and grind in and learn without the pressures of being – and it wouldn't be like a Donnell Pumphrey. Like, this kid's got the talent. He's got the makeup to be a very good running back.
And I think, too, so he's going to be your fourth running back. So there's a chance he's not even active on game days. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it would be a developmental player either way. And then maybe you have a game where, you know, if there is an injury, then he's up that game, and maybe you get him 5 carries or something like that, or you get him a couple carries, like whatever. So, I mean, you know, you never know.
So Jonathan Dolan says Alshon had 57 receptions last year, 57. So he hasn't proved to be that great of a receiver on a team yet. I'm going to respond with a couple points here, which Marcus Billups, Foolish Demon, actually said 57 receptions with a torn shoulder and 9 touchdowns. Wentz spreads the ball around. Yes. That is exactly the point. It definitely took them a little bit to get in sync. I think it's fair to say the first 3 or 4 games.
Absolutely.
It took maybe even 5. It took them a little bit to kind of get their legs under them. That's point number 1. Point number 2 already made there, which is the conversation ender. Carson Wentz doesn't look at one guy. If you look at it, when they needed a guy to be that number 1 guy, everybody had their time.
Say, there isn't,
Alshon Jeffrey was the number 1 guy when they needed him to step up. And you know what? When teams double team down on him, then Nelson Aguilar stepped up. By the way, Zach freaking Ertz.
You might have, at this point, I don't know if we touched on this show, but right now, as far as tight ends in the NFL,
he's a top 3 or 4. Yeah.
I would only put him behind Gronk and Kelsey.
Probably.
Right now.
Yep.
You could make the argument if you wanted to for Jimmy Graham, and I wouldn't begrudge you it, although I'd say over the past couple of seasons, I'd put Ertz ahead of him. But if you're looking at body of work entire career, yeah, I'd put Jimmy Graham a little bit ahead of him. But point being, this guy's legit one of the best tight ends in all of football. Not just a team could, and it's just, they won the friggin' Super Bowl without a number 1 receiver. With Alshon Jeffrey only catching 57 passes, they won a Super Bowl. So they don't need it. They don't need him to do that. And if you look at Torrey Smith's numbers last year, they weren't that great. So you just need Mike Wallace to do that, maybe a little bit better. And I think he's more than capable of doing that. And
Jonathan Dolan says, and Marcus, I watch every game every week and again in the offseason. If you watch every game every week, then you can clearly see you're a stat guy. I want you to go back and look at every team in the league and see. I want you to look at the primary top 4 or 5 receivers on a team. And I want you to look how close the numbers are amongst them and look at yards, look at receptions, look at touchdowns and everything else you freaking yak. We know you're going to get a lot with Ertz on that.
Yeah, now.
But I want you to look at every team and look at those numbers and tell me how many teams in the league even come close to spreading the ball out and still having these guys put up huge numbers.
Exactly.
I mean, we don't have to have a guy be a number 1. Alshon, in all actuality, is probably a number 2 with flashes of number 1. But he fits that skill set is absolutely perfect. And, oh, by the way, he doesn't have an ego of a number 1 that he needs to have the ball in his hands like an Odell Beckham Jr.
Right.
Or Antonio Brown, who we've seen him be a diva on the sideline last year. He doesn't have that. Des Bryant, he doesn't have that ego. You have a guy who is a fringe number 1, who's in a very friendly contract, who has so many reliable other guys around him that allows him to not have to be the guy and try to do more than he needs to. So it's not about having a number 1 all the time. It's about having a lot of guys who play at an above average, very high level, and that's what this team has.
This is the last thing I'm going to say about it, because otherwise I'm going to start getting fired up. And you guys saw what happens when Paulie gets fired up. It's not pretty.
Starts defending Rocco.
It gets, hey now.
Or the Browns.
So here's the way I look at it. No, I raged against the Browns. You're bringing back Alshon Jeffrey. You're bringing back Zach Ertz. You're bringing back Nelson Aguilar. You didn't bring back Torrey Smith, but you got Mike Wallace. Upgrade. As far as the passing game goes, you're not bringing back Brent Selleck. You brought in Dallas Goedert. That's also an upgrade. So, if anything, I think they've improved their, however you want to word it, like the Brodo put it, the receiving options, not receiver position. As far as you look at receiving options, and you bring back Darren Sproles, the receiving options are actually better. They've improved upon last year.
Yeah, I mean, the argument people could make is, well, what about Trey Burton? Trey Burton was great in this offense. I think Trey Burton is going to be is a good player.
A good player, yes.
But you're going to see, I think that he's going, well, although he's going to be in a good offense now, but
yeah,
I think he's going to be a little bit exposed of a guy who got a lot of money to be a number 1 when he's really a number 2.
Trey Burton, 23 catches, 248 yards.
Exactly.
He had 5 touchdowns, which, I mean, I think he had 2 of them in one game. But he's a good player, Trey Burton. I like Trey Burton. But you didn't –
he's not a guy that you look at like, we lost Trey Burton.
As far as long-term, I'd rather have Dallas Goedert.
Absolutely.
Because also, too, Dallas Goedert can block. Trey Burton cannot. Trey Burton, with all due respect, Trey Burton is a glorified slot receiver. He's a good football player. He's a valuable football player, but he's a glorified slot receiver. He's not a traditional true tight end.
I agree with that. And Marcus responded with, then you should know that this team doesn't have a number one receiver. The great thing about the team was that anyone stepped up at any time. You cover Alshon, you don't have to worry. You got Wallace, Ertz, and Aguilar.
There it is.
And Darren Sproles.
Nailed it.
And Corey Clement. And whoever, and Dallas Goedert. And whoever else you want to throw in there.
Billy Brown, maybe.
And Mac Hollins.
Richard Rodgers. Who knows? Marcus Wheaton. Just keep throwing names. Shelton Gibson. Somebody. I don't know.
Not many teams have that kind of a depth.
No.
But, Ryan, what do you got? Do you have anything over on YouTube?
Let me check here. I don't believe so. I think a lot of them, they were following along with the back and forth with the wide receivers. No, I mean, Fullest Demon had said as well that he likes Corey Nelson and Paul Willero, but as far as depth, but no, I mean the consensus is that there's no real concern as far as when you compare it to offensive line, running back, obviously the defensive line. There's really no big time concerns.
Yeah.
That's really the big consensus at the moment.
Now, we were talking about rookie camps coming up and all that, so let's do it broad. Paulie, what should we expect in regards to the rookie class this year? Who do you think are? I know we obviously know Goddard. We think is the home run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Goddard's gonna show you what they're gonna get a glimpse of what they took when they got Goddard. You're gonna see the great hands. You're gonna see some of the route running. You're gonna see some of the athletic ability. What you hope is that he just picks up. The biggest thing for him is going to be picking up the offense. If he picks up the offense quickly, he's going to have a role this year, and he's going to have a good role this year. So that's the biggest thing for me with Goddard. As far as like the rest of the guys, Maddox.
Who do you really like? What's a name that's under the radar that you really like?
The biggest. I mean, the two. I'll say two because there's two guys we haven't mentioned. One would be that we talked about last week was Josh Sweat, the kid from Florida State with the knee issues, but is an athletic freak. Has a lot of traits, has a lot of tools you like as an edge rusher. I want to see where he is. I want to see him get into camp and like work under Brandon Graham and work under Michael Bennett, learn a thing or two from Chris Long. Like I want to see what happens in that situation because I think there's something there if they can get it out of him the right way. And the other guy that I've been hyping that I think is going to make the team as an undrafted free agent is Jeremy Reeves. He's a safety out of South Alabama. Can cover. He played nickel. He played deep safety. He played in the box safety. He's undersized. He's not the most athletic dude, but he likes to hit, and he's smart as hell. He's really instinctual. That would be a dude I would think has a really good shot at making this team. I think it would be between him and Trey Sullivan, the guy they brought in last year from Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeremy Reeves would be the guy I would probably want to keep my eye on the most because, again, if he can learn this defense and he can make some plays, not even bulk up because, I mean, how big – like he's – a player that he gets compared to actually is Rodney McLeod. And I think there are a lot of similarities. They are both undrafted, both deemed not athletic enough, both deemed not big enough. So, I mean, I could see a little bit of that in his game. I actually think he might be a little bit better in coverage than Rodney McLeod.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that's a guy I think is definitely worth keeping an eye on in camp and through training camp.
Tom says #back-to-back. Marcus Billups says all day, only thing better than a Super Bowl is another Super Bowl.
Oh,
totally agree.
Here's a question for you guys,
Yeah.
and obviously the people at home. So we just threw out a question on our social media. It was a response to the ESPN, I guess they released this the last few days, the post-NFL draft power rankings. If you want me to, I can read them, and then you just tell me if you agree or disagree with it. You don't have to make a top 10 if you don't want, but just...
Yeah.
No,
so
I like it. Go for it.
Their post-draft power rankings for the NFL season were as follows. They have the Eagles at 1, the Patriots at 2, the Steelers at 3, Saints at 4, and the Vikings at 5. So I'll just stop there. So do you mostly agree with that? Would you change it in any part?
Let's see. So it was Saints at 4, Vikings 5, Steelers 3.
So it's Eagles 1, Patriots 2, Steelers 3, Saints 4, Vikings 5.
I honestly like the Saints and the Vikings more than I like the Steelers right now.
I don't think the Steelers make my top 5. If we're
No.
gonna be completely honest.
No, because you know what? A team that's probably around 6 or 7 is probably the LA Rams, and I would probably slot them ahead of the Steelers right now too.
Listen, their own quarterback doesn't even like what they did, so.
Yeah, right.
It's a fair point.
Yo, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
And how Ben Roethlisberger's
That's why I stopped at 5 because I figured that'd be a
because Ben Roethlisberger's a huge dick.
Smooth transition.
What is, dude?
Yeah, let's talk about Ben, who Ben, who was saying he might retire in a year, that was a year ago.
For you to
now he's bitching that they drafted a young quarterback to groom.
The pair of balls in this dude, man. Like, you were ready to. You told people you were going to retire. Like, you said, "Oh, we'll see if I'm going to play next year," and that's fine. Like, I get it. You're in your mid-30s. You've had a lot of injuries. You've won 2 Super Bowls. If you wanted to hang it up, no one would have begrudged you. Not a big deal. But you kind of kept the team in limbo because you didn't say whether or not you were coming back. And now, because you tell them this year, "Oh, I think I'm going to play another 3 or 4 years," you expect them to sit on their hands and not try to get a quarterback in the future? Like, that's so selfish, and it's so ridiculous. And then not only that,
So what was the exact thing that he said, or
he said he's
summarize
not.
it?
He basically said he's not going to mentor Mason Rudolph, and that he doesn't give a shit.
Well, he said his job's not to mentor him, right?
And then he also said that he questioned the team's pick of Rudolph, saying, I think we could have taken a player that would have helped us this year. So you've already put this young quarterback in a tough spot by talking like this. You put your team in a bad spot because you ripped the pick by your GM and this organization who's paid you a lot of money. So now you're going to go ahead and there was a really good article Robert Klemko from SI wrote. It was like an open letter to Roethlisberger.
Tom said, and Ben's a rapist, so
well, there's that. I wasn't even going to go there. He's a piece of shit. That's a whole other story.
That's why we let Tom do it.
Yes.
Tom's the one who jumps in the trenches and takes the hits for us.
Oh, yeah. He's a giant piece of shit no matter what.
They called him the laundry room rapist.
Oh, no.
Should I cut the music?
But Robert Klemko and SI, there's quotes. When Ben Roethlisberger was a rookie, Tommy Maddox was the Steelers' starting quarterback. He got hurt, and then Ben Roethlisberger took over. Tommy Maddox mentored Ben Roethlisberger and helped make him into a successful quarterback. So for you to then spit in the face of Mason Rudolph and say, "I'm not going to mentor you," and then spit in the face of your organization and say, "This was a shitty pick. You could have picked a guy that could help us for right now." They're trying to mortgage their future. They're trying to do something because you were about to retire a year ago, dude. Like, I don't even get his mindset in there. Like, the pair of balls and the arrogance on that dude. And, like, what have you won recently?
Not shit.
Like, honestly, what have you won recently?
Not shit. I mean, this is something that every team does, and Jimmy Garoppolo was a victim of this. A guy who was taken as the future quarterback, and an aging veteran didn't want to take the time of day.
Yep.
And now, I mean, Jimmy GQ, he's a lot more handsome.
Pick. The Patriots got a second-round pick for Garoppolo. Like, what the hell, dude? These teams, like, the arrogance of these quarterbacks, and I get they're great quarterbacks, and they've earned a lot. You know, they've won Super Bowls. They brought championships to their cities. But come on, man. Like, you were a young quarterback too once. Tom Brady, you got mentored by Drew Bledsoe, did you not? Did Drew Bledsoe tell you to go shove your playbook up your ass? No, he didn't do that. Like, come on, man. Show some class.
Listen, if the
Saints,
Saints,
a good teammate. Like, come on.
That just shows the character of some of these guys. If the Saints decided at that pick when they traded up to take a quarterback, I guarantee you that Drew Brees would have embraced him, whoever they took, with open arms.
Yep.
Welcomed him to the team and did everything he could to make sure that when his time is done, he leaves the organization in a better place. I think people like Tom Brady, I think people like Ben Roethlisberger only give a fuck about their own egos.
Yes.
And when it's said and done and they hang them up, sure, they'll come back for the organizational, hey, let's recognize the 2006 Super Bowl Steelers or whatever amount of Patriots ones you want to do. Sure, they'll come back and make appearances for them if Tom Brady's not kissing his kids or if Ben's not in the laundry room or a bathroom somewhere.
Did you guys see Tom Brady's suit for the Met Gala? Looking like Steven Seagal? Yo! Yo!
Another plug to the A2D social media. We threw out the A2D question of the day, brought to you by Scanzano Sports Center. And that was, very simply, who took longer to get ready last night, Tom Brady or Giselle? Because it's a legitimate question. There's actually some people who actually said Nick Foles, which I'm like, okay, Nick Foles.
Tom Brady looked like he was getting ready to step in like an old dusty bar and like break a pool cue over someone's head or some shit. And that's Steven Seagal what the fuck was that? It was terrible.
There's another
Jesus.
another great name thrown out there of a guy who had an ego that was, I can't believe he could fit in a fucking dome, and that's Brett Favre.
Oh, yeah.
All right. The only thing is, and I pray that the Steelers take the same approach, that when it's time to cut bait and go, you don't like it, smell you later. Go throw for the Browns or whoever the fuck is going to need a quarterback then. But every team, youth must be served.
It is a business.
It is a sport that when you pick up the next guy who's the incumbent for your position, it doesn't always have to be the guy who's going to play next year. They're in a position to spend 2 or 3 years grooming this quarterback to take over.
I've watched Mason Rudolph a lot. It's going to be at least 2 or 3 years. Continue.
Exactly. But there's an opportunity to let this kid learn from I honestly don't think Ben is a great quarterback. Excuse me, I never have thought Ben is a great quarterback.
Really?
I'm just not a big Ben guy. He's a tough guy.
I don't want to. I can't go that far. I mean, he's a prick, but he's.
I think he's a freaking specimen.
But this is nothing
he's
new.
pretty good
I've said this
quarterback.
before. I'm just not a Ben guy. There's a lot of guys in his era that I would have taken over Ben. He's tough as balls, though. When it comes to on the field, especially down the stretch, he makes plays. But you want to talk about when I look at Ben and I see the teams that they've had, the offenses they've had, and then year in and year out, they're playing the Browns and winning 13-10, and then they go against the Patriots, and it's a 34-28 game. There's no consistency there, except for the 2 minutes. The final 2 minutes of a game, he always turns it on.
But one thing I'll say to disagree with that real quick is that doesn't just fall. Like, I understand the
No, it falls
quarterback.
on a lot of people.
That's an organizational issue.
Yes.
That's a preparation. That might be a coaching issue.
And that's fair, but I've also seen him throw bad balls in those games.
Yeah, he's not perfect by any means.
You know, I don't put him in the class. I just don't. I know he won 2 titles. I just don't put him in the class of Breeze and Brady. He's probably the next level.
And here's my thing. Like, on the other end of the spectrum, like you talked about with Drew Brees, this is me complimenting Alex Smith 2 straight weeks. So this is like huge for me.
Oh
This
my God.
is big for me.
Just get its own
Because
music
I've
bed
never
just for that. Its own
I've never
breaking
been
news bed.
I've never been an Alex Smith
I'm
guy.
starting to feel dirty now.
When last
like
year, when Andy Reid took Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith did not complain. What did Alex Smith do? He went out and had the best year of his entire career. He did. Like Alex Smith or not, he had a career year last year, and he was phenomenal last year. He had a very good season. He didn't mope. He didn't go on the radio and say, well, I'm not going to teach Patrick Mahomes shit. Patrick Mahomes needs to learn it damn self. No. He put on his big boy pants and he said, you know what, kid, you're not taking my job. And you know what? He didn't take his job. They traded him to Washington. Alex Smith didn't lose his job, technically. So I'm just saying, like, if you're this great franchise quarterback, which I do believe Ben Roethlisberger is, act like it, dude. Take your job. It's your job. Don't let some kid come in and make you look small, because that's what you look. You look small. You look insecure when you act like that.
This is the difference, real quick, between what I think happened with Eli Manning last year. If they would have handled it the right way and just said, listen, not said, hey, we're going to start you so you can keep your streak going, but then we're going to sit you with just out of nowhere.
And guess what? Eli Manning didn't complain
and then
when they
we're going to
drafted
start Geno Smith.
Ugh.
Okay, they weren't even going with like their young quarterback who may be. That would have been a different story. I think that Eli would have been the guy who says, all right, that's fine. If that's the route we're going, no problem. I'll help the kid out for the rest of the year. Just move me at the end of the year. That would have been fine. I'll make sure that the kid learns as much as he can in this time period. That's a difference. But this is total egotistical bullshit. And that's the 3 guys that come to mind is Tom Brady, after seeing what happened with Jimmy Garoppolo, now Ben, and historically Brett Favre.
Yeah, I'll give you another one, though, too, who was all butthurt. Remember Sam Bradford was all butthurt when the Eagles traded up to get Carson Wentz?
Yep.
And who the hell is Sam Bradford to get butthurt about
he
that?
must be pissed again.
Yeah, Josh Rosen's taking his goddamn job. Week 1, baby. Josh Rosen's starting on that team.
I got to touch on the one thing you had said.
How did Peyton handle Osweiler taking his job for a while? I think he was fine.
He was fine.
Yeah, he was fine.
They took, and like to go back to Eli.
One of the greats.
Yeah,
a
dude.
top 2 or 3 all-time greatest quarterbacks
You know,
handle that shit with grace.
And I'm not giving Big Ben a pass by any means. He's
better not give him a pass, Ryan.
No, I'm not. Trust me. Trust me, I'm not going to. But he's found opportunities, and I feel like he's seeked opportunities many times in the past, and especially recently, to take shots at his organization because I don't think he likes the coach. I don't think he likes the organization. And with a team that wins their division every year, that goes far in the playoffs, and most of the time, reaches the conference championship, there's not many times you can rip an organization, especially that's successful. I feel that Ben Roethlisberger, and I truly believe, he believes what he's saying. I don't think it's, propaganda by any means. But when he flat out said, and I think the one thing I don't think what he said is supposed to be a shot at Mason Rudolph. I really, truly don't, because he went out of his way to say, I don't know him personally yet, but I'm sure he's a great young man. I'm sure he's a great talent, et cetera, et cetera. I think he's using this as a way to take another shot at his organization.
Oh, for sure.
Because I 100% think all last season when he was going back and forth on, maybe I'm done. Maybe I'm not done. Maybe it's time for me to hang it up and adjust some things in my life. That was used as propaganda and almost a bluff to see what his team and organization would do to help him. That's exactly what that was. To see how serious they were about helping him out, as far as an organization and winning, whatever, to just figure out the direction in which they're going. And first off, I think he's a hothead. I think he enters, to quote LeVar Ball, I don't think he stays in his lane whatsoever. So I think he's using it as a way to then, once again, take shots at his coach, his organization, etc. So I think, as a leader of your team, as the quarterback of your team, you shouldn't be doing that in a public forum. But as a guy who's clearly been very outspoken in his career, in an organization, the Steelers, that's very outspoken, very emotional, very emotions-driven, because that's what that culture is, I'm not surprised to hear it. I'm really not.
Tom said, Paul, you're 100% right. Him and Flacco are crumbs. But even go back even more historically. You brought up when when Maddox, he essentially took over Maddox's position. Maddox mentored him.
It was like literally the same exact thing as Tom Brady, honestly, with Drew Bledsoe. Exactly. And, by the way, you brought up Alex Smith. Marcus reminds us, do you remember when Colin Kaepernick took his job?
Yeah.
And what did he do? And I taking all the political stuff out of it, I was just I never thought Kaepernick was that good. I thought he was coming out of that Super Bowl, but he showed a lot different
flashes,
after.
Man.
He did, but for whatever reason, he couldn't put it together.
Yeah.
I thought Alex Smith shouldn't have lost his job at that point, and I agree because Marcus says the same thing. But that's twice that he stepped up and did the right thing. A guy who's been a very good quarterback in this league.
Again, dude, maybe it's like a little corner cliche to say, but be a good teammate, man.
Yeah.
We just watched a team win the Super Bowl because they don't have a bunch of dudes with big egos who are worried about their stats and their money and their playing time. That's what we just saw happen. Check your ego at the door, dude.
I'm gonna read these last three on Facebook because we're switching over, and then we'll go to break and we can respond to some of it too. Marcus Billups says Eli should be doing the mentor thing now. Let is the heir apparent. I'll respond to that. Marcus Billups also says Peyton knew he was done though. Being benched was the icing on the cake. I don't know that he knew he was done.
No, I mean, not.
And Dion, close it out. Dion says Favre is a piece of you know what for what he did to Rodgers, but in turn, Aaron took something from Favre by just watching and ending up winning his own championship. Kurt Warner is the man for how he handled quarterbacks coming up under him. A total 1,000%. Part of a major reason why he was first ballot gold jacket man wearing. And he says
Mark
Brady's
Bolger took his job.
He says Brady's a trash truck juice of a human being on field when dealing with young guys at the position.
Trash truck juice.
Guys, great stuff on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Also great stuff on YouTube. You guys are going to get all the time for the second half of the show. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Periscope, you can join us. Click the link we have the link dropped in there, right?
Right in the caption.
Right in the caption. Click the link, guys. Join us for the second half. We'll continue to talk this. We're going to talk Sixers. If we could slip in some baseball talk, we'd like to, since Charles isn't here and won't look like a dummy on the couch. But yeah, so thank you to our sponsors the first half, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountant, GibsonMayer.com. Make them yours. Obviously, Scanzano Sports for the poll question, which we'll continue to discuss on the other side. Live from the BMW of Atlantic City studios on A2DRadio.com. We'll see you guys in the second half.
put on like a rock concert over there.
Man, we got a rock concert going up in
Yeah.
this bitch.
I want to thank August Burns Red for making that dope intro track for us. Sick, man.
Welcome back to Birds of a Feather live on A2D Radio. Thank you if you made the jump from Facebook and Periscope over to YouTube. Our second half brought to you by StreamSmart, StreamSmart.com. Poll question brought to you by Scanzano Sports, ScanzanoSports.com. How concerned are you over Timmy Jernigan's injury? Not concerned, slightly concerned, very concerned, panicking. We're going to talk this. We're going to talk Sixers. We're going to touch a little Carson Wentz. Ryan's going to finish going through the list. We're going to do all that here in the beautiful BMW of Atlantic City Studios, BMWOfAtlanticCity.com. So the one thing I just wanted to touch on, the last Facebook comment with the Eli Manning thing, I have no doubt in my mind, though, that where he said, I think it was Marcus Billups said, Eli should be doing that now. If they start to fade from the standings, absolutely, I think that they will make that transition the right way this time.
Yeah.
And I have full confidence that Eli Manning is the type of guy that will make sure that he is getting the best out of this kid and mentoring him.
And here's what it is, too. Last year, when the Giants took Davis Webb, did Eli come out all butthurt about it? Did he go on a radio station saying that he needs to learn the damn playbook himself?
There it is.
Did he do it when they draft Floletta this year? No, he did not.
Yep.
Because he's worried about his shit. He's worried. He wants to keep his job, and that's what he's worried about.
You right. You right.
So before we went to break, we went over the first 5 of the top 10 of what ESPN put out, I believe, this week. It was fairly recent, of the NFL Power Rankings post-draft edition. So if you're just joining us, we went through the top 5. I'll recap it here. And basically, we're just talking about if we agree with it, which teams are completely out of place, which ones are missing, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're just joining us, you can still comment on that as well. The top 5, as previously mentioned, were the Eagles at 1, the Patriots at 2, Steelers at 3, Saints at 4, Vikings at 5. And I think the consensus among us 3 were that the Steelers are kind of out of place. I wouldn't have them in the top 5, period.
Correct.
Nope.
I think you guys both think they're a little high as well, correct?
Agreed.
And we would say that out of that 5, the team that's missing is probably the Rams.
Yeah.
I would say Rams are probably 3, or at least 4.
Yeah, that cluster's interesting. The cluster of Saints, Vikings, Rams, they're all pretty evenly matched in my eyes. They're all pretty close teams. I don't know which one I would put. I mean, you're looking at just purely from paper. I would say Rams because of the improvements they made and how much they are. How much I believe they're going to be better. I guess you know what? I have to put the Saints ahead of them because I think with the other 2 teams you're making projections. You know what I mean? With the Vikings, yeah, they should be better because they have Kirk Cousins at quarterback. Mm-hmm. They should be a better team.
Right.
Same with the Rams with the additions they made on defense with Brandon Cooks at receiver. They should be a better team. But the Saints we already know were a really good team, and they only got better. Yeah, they're going to be missing marketing over the first 4 games. That's going to hurt them a little bit. But I think as far as that goes, I think the Saints are the one team I think that is proven. I would put them at 3. I'm going to go them 3. Then I'm going to go Rams 4, Vikings 5.
Jerome, what would your top 5 look like?
No, I agree with Paulie, and then I'll even do a hot take, and I would even put Chicago over the Steelers right now. I love everything Chicago's done in the offseason.
That is like the hottest of hot take. I mean, that is a burning take.
Like I actually had to move to like this.
That is like a burning take to where like you just burnt the entire studio because that's like a burnt in a bad way. Because I disagree completely.
No, I don't. Yeah. What?
I think they've given Mitch Trubisky a lot of weapon. Mitchell. I say Mitch.
Here's the problem though, Jerome. We don't know what Mitchell is yet. Mitchell. We don't know what Mitchell is, other than he's Mitchell.
He's Mitchell.
Yeah, I mean that's what he's Mitchell. I mean you have to. If you're saying that Mitchell's like an MVP next year.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't believe in the Steelers that much at all.
So do you have the Steelers at like 20th then?
No.
But I mean, you look at yeah, dude. Because then you got to look at.
I'm looking at that whole North Division right now. And I think it's going to be a very competitive division. And I think that for me, the Bears are going to be the team that are going to surprise a lot of people. I'm not saying that they're going to overtake Minnesota and overtake the Packers this year. But do I think they're going to be a really tough matchup this year? Do I think they're I think that Mitchell Trubisky is going to show a lot of growth this year, and I believe that they're going to be probably 2 or 3 years away from being up in that conversation with them.
Here's my main question with that. You having the Chicago Bears above the Steelers, okay? And we're not saying, you're not putting a number on it. You're not saying the Bears are top 5. I'd certainly, I hope not at this point. But if you're saying that means, in my opinion, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you believe the Bears have a bigger chance of success this year than the Steelers, correct? Because that's what basically power rankings are. So that means that the Bears have a better chance of winning their division than the Steelers. And my question is, if the Steelers don't win it in the division, who the hell's winning that division?
I'm just saying, I'm looking at it more. Well, okay.
Clearly the
rephrase.
Browns.
Well, maybe. No, I'm just looking at it as I think that they are going to have a better team. I don't think that they're going to win more because they're they have a much tougher division and conference. But, and I hear what you're saying, because I know that power rankings go with wins and losses, potential to. I look at power rankings where I look at the team, not necessarily the record right off the bat. I'm just looking at the team and how strong I think that they're going to be. I like everything that they've done. I think that they've put their young. I think they've done what the Rams did as far as putting a young quarterback. Now I know Jared Goff coming out had a lot less question marks, but I think that they have put this kid in a position to succeed, and that they could be a team that could slide into a wild card spot.
So, but my thing is this. Your premise makes sense, but I think you got the wrong team, bud.
Yep.
I think you're thinking of maybe the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah. Well, I would put the 49ers over both of them, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to 6 through 10, because this is where it gets sketchy, and I feel like there's a lot of mistakes made by ESPN, which, again,
Sure.
well, duh. You know what I mean? You have the Rams at 6.
Okay.
The Jaguars at 7. The Falcons at 8. The Packers at 9. And the Chiefs at 10. My first thing is, what the hell are the Chiefs doing here?
Yeah, no. You're not going to find a bigger Patrick Mahomes fan.
Yeah.
But no.
They picked the wrong team in that division.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Chargers.
Chargers.
Oh, the Chargers are going to be.
I love the
this year.
Chargers draft, dude. Love the Chargers draft.
And let's not forget that the Chargers started the season very competitive, lost tight games, couldn't close out.
Yep.
When they finally started rolling and you saw how good that team could be, and all they've done this offseason is get better. They had one of the best drafts as far as improving your team from last year to what it's going to be going in this year.
Derwin James was the steal of the draft.
Yep.
I don't have to think twice about it.
Was
the
he
steal of the draft. And here's what it is.
When they took him, I think I messaged you guys, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I love that pick. Absolute steal.
And then later on, they took a fellow named Kaiser White, who is a hybrid linebacker safety box player from West Virginia. Their biggest issue last year was they couldn't cover tight ends. So what do? They go out and they get 2 safeties who love to come up in the box and be physical, who can cover tight ends. They got 2 of them, not 1. They got 2 of those kind of guys. I love what they did in the draft. I would be shocked if the Chargers don't win that division. Shocked.
I'll also supply complete transparency at the beginning of the season. And I know this is a position that people say, oh, well, this is not an important position, but at the end of the day it is, especially in game-winning or tying situations. At the beginning of that season, they had a guy by the name of Young Ho Koo, a kicker.
Oh, right.
They had 3 chances to either tie a game or win a game at the last second possession.
Yep.
They missed all 3. So that is 3 games that went from imminent wins to immediate losses. So that's 3 wins. What did they finish with? 9 wins, 10 wins?
Yeah, they would have won the division probably.
Oh, for sure.
And I know this is a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda
Sure.
type stuff, but at the end of the day, they were in positions to win games, and it came down to an incompetent kicker who was released week 7, 8, 9, something like that.
Yeah, what did they? I think it was earlier than that.
It would have been fair if it was.
Yeah. What did they do? Did they do anything in the offseason to address? I really don't know off the top of my head to address kicker.
I'll look. I
remember.
hope so.
Yeah,
I want to say
did they bring Novak back? Was that who their kicker was the rest of the season?
I want to say it's Sturgis. It might be
they
Sturgis.
Might have signed Sturgis.
I think it's Sturgis. 'Cause I remember that's what made me remember about Young Ho Koo.
Sturgis was a reliable guy here, man.
Let me just confirm that rather quickly. But no, I really don't understand why I would have the Chargers closer to 5 than 10, and they don't even have it on the list.
I agree. They would be somewhere around 8 for me, I would think. 7 or 8.
I honestly think the Broncos have a higher upside than the Chiefs. And I'm not a Case Keenum guy, but they have the defense. They have the wide receiver weapons, and Case Keenum doesn't make mistakes.
You know what? And Bradley Chubb and
Miller
Von
and Chubb,
Miller, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, boy.
Los Angeles Chargers, Caleb Sturgis.
Yeah, there
All
you go.
So there you go. He can get it done.
Yeah, better than Koo.
Not Jake Elliott, but that's not our problem.
Hey.
Might be a little scary past 40 yards, but
Yeah, that's fine.
No, but
Young Hoku
Hey,
was 20
Sturgis,
yards.
man.
he was good for us.
He
I
did a hell of
have
a
no
job
complaints
here, man.
about him,
He didn't lose his job because he was ineffective. He just got hurt at the wrong time, and Jake Elliott decided to make a 61-yard field goal to win a game.
Jake Elliott was a god. You can't compete with a god.
It's very true.
I mean, other than that,
And I think that could even change because I know we've talked about landing spots for Dez. If he falls into San Francisco's lap at some point.
Or San Diego's
San
lap.
I just
That'd be a
that-
nice
Or,
mix
sorry,
up.
I said San Diego. Los Angeles
no,
Chargers.
it's fine.
lap.
Still call him San Diego. That's fine.
But, yeah, imagine Dez with Keenan Allen. Ooh, boy.
Veteran
And
quarterback.
Phillip Rivers. I love Phillip Rivers.
Oh, boy. Although San Fran would be a lot of fun, too, because I would love, oh, my God, him, Jimmy G. But I don't know. I'd rather just let them develop.
When you made the hot take about the Bears, Chrome, I'll give my own hot take. This time, a team that is way better, and I think better in a way better position to succeed than the Chiefs. I don't think it's close, and I actually have them as a dark horse Super Bowl contender.
Ooh.
It's the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
If the Chiefs are on this list, the Texans should be at least 5 ahead of them.
I like that.
And I understand Deshaun Watson, major injury, that's fine. That didn't stop them from putting the Eagles number 1. Okay? I understand J.J. Watt is injured again.
With a lot more time to recover, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have a guy by the name of DeAndre Hopkins, which
Yeah,
it
he's pretty
seems
good.
like everyone wants to forget he's on that team.
He's pretty good.
He's an okay ball player.
Yeah,
He's
just
good.
all right. Oh, and the Honey Badger is on that team now.
Show is.
If Deshaun Watson stays healthy, don't be surprised if they're in the AFC Championship game.
They'll at least, at the very least, they will be competing big time.
Yeah, I like that team. And then a guy I like on that team, too, that could, a dark horse kind of player, Deonta Foreman, the big running back from Texas, who was Lamar Miller's backup last year. I think he's still going to be Lamar Miller's backup, but I think he will be sprinkled in more this year. And I like what he's got going on.
The other
like the cut of his job.
The other team
That
I
could
actually
almost be like a DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry kind of a situation.
Yeah.
100%.
To where if Lamar struggles out of the gate, this kid's going to be sitting waiting to take a bigger role.
I think Lamar will be all right. Like
No.
Lamar's a solid back. He fits their system
But I'm saying
very
this
well.
kid could easily step into that door and take away some of those carries later in the season.
The team I actually have a lot of stock into, and this is probably the first year I've honestly said this, maybe ever.
Mm-hmm.
I really think the Atlanta Falcons have a great chance to go back to the Super Bowl.
I love the Calvin Ridley pick.
Yep.
I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Love the Calvin Ridley pick.
I think
Perfect for that offense.
I'm not exactly a Matt Ryan guy, but he adds stability. You know what you're going to get from him. He's a lock top 10 quarterback. Obviously, he was the MVP 2 seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
You see the weapons. They didn't lose a ton of people. That division, listen, I mean, they're in arguably the toughest division in football.
Foolish Demon said he's been saying since November of last year the Eagles and the Texans are going to face each other in this year's Super Bowl.
He has been saying
this
lot
upcoming
of
Super
fun.
Bowl.
He's 100%.
I tell you what,
correct.
Foolish Demon, if you called that shit and that happens, dude, we'll have you over here on the couch. Sit with us for the preview show.
I could freaking see it. I'm not joking. I could see it. You know what I mean? Like, listen, if you want to name me,
To me, that's the two elite young quarterbacks, and I like Jared Goff.
No, I put Deshaun.
But to me, it's Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson, probably Goff after that. They are the two elite young quarterbacks in this league.
Jimmy.
and then Jimmy
GQ.
No,
Yeah.
Jimmy G's. It's Carson and Jimmy G for me, honestly. I put Jimmy G ahead of Deshaun Watson, and
Do
I
ya?
love Deshaun Watson. Yep.
I actually would probably put him ahead of Goff, but I still think at this point I like
It's fair.
Deshaun a little
I
bit more.
wouldn't begrudge anyone who thinks it's a personal preference thing.
Yeah,
Honestly, I
yeah.
think they're both great young quarterbacks. I think that's that's the proper order. And it's Jared Goff is 4th.
I'll ask you guys this, and I'll ask the people at home as well. If you had to name a team in the AFC, because obviously you have the 2 top teams and pretty much everyone else, the Steelers and the Patriots, 2 teams, 2 quarterbacks that won't be around for much longer. They're not going to be around forever, even though Ben's saying he's going to be around another 5. Tom's trying to say he's going to play until, I don't know, freaking 50, 60. I mean, every year it seems, every time he says it, he goes up. Of course, yes.
If he can, he will try.
Well, listen, after what we talked about earlier with the friggin' Met Gala with him in the outfit, I think this is one of the many reasons why he stays in football, so he does not have to go to the Met Gala every single time. Sure. Give me a team that you see as the next coming that could take over that entire conference.
Well, I mean, I think we've named 2 of them in the Jaguars and the Texans. I think they're in really good positions. The only thing the Jaguars are missing is a franchise quarterback. Mm-hmm. If Bortles pans out and ends up developing into that, cool. I don't think it's going to happen. If they can find themselves a franchise quarterback, whether it's going to have to be sooner than later, free agency or something, I think that no question. But what I love about the Texans and what it's proven with Carson Wentz and over years, a franchise quarterback creates sustainability between its defense and a franchise quarterback. And I absolutely love Deshaun Watson.
We actually have breaking news. Yeah, we have breaking news. So Mariners pitcher James Paxton throws a no-hitter versus the Blue Jays for the 6th in franchise history.
He's also a Canadian. He's a native Canadian.
Yeah, he got attacked by a bald eagle on opening day.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, my God. Hilarious. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
He's that guy, yeah.
That guy.
Overshadowing the fact that Aaron Nola tonight was dealing.
Yeah.
He went 7 strong, only gave up a run.
What do you have, 11 Ks?
I think he might have
11
more than
12?
that. Yeah, he's definitely double digits.
Amazing.
At least 11. But to get back to that, it's funny that you brought those 2 teams up because I was thinking of 2 other teams in the same division. The AFC South might become a friggin' – that division
powerhouse.
Was a joke. That division might become a powerhouse.
It's going to be a juggernaut.
If Andrew Luck's shoulder is healthy, which is a big if, and if Mariota goes back, if he progresses back to the player he was that he showed a couple years ago, that division could be serious for years to come. Because here's the other thing about the Colts. I actually really like what the Colts did in the draft. They drafted 2. First of all, Quentin Nelson, that kid, I can't tell you, he might have been the most impressive. Like, Saquon Barkley was a freak. There's no doubt about it. Quentin Nelson might have been the most impressive player in this draft, and the guy I think is going to be a sure thing. He might be an all-pro as a rookie. He is that freaking good. He could have played in the NFL last year. He's a monster, and they just got him. And they also took Braden Smith, who's another guard, in the 2nd round. So basically, you took 2 franchise – whoa, someone just hit a bomb. Not the Phillies. That's not good. Off of Edinburgh Ramos.
That's the last time I comment. Is Nola in the game still?
It was
No,
Panda.
he's out.
I was going to say, it's the last time I comment on Nola.
Yeah, Panda raked one off of Ramos. But anyway, so now they have 2 franchise guards to help with the running game. They took the kid, I can't think of his name for the life of me, the kid from the center from Alabama last year.
Oh.
So their entire –
Lord. Why am I blanking on his
Is
name?
it Kelly? Not Kelly.
I'll figure it out.
Allen? I think it's Kelly. I think it's Ryan Kelly is his name. But he was a legit center prospect last year. So all of a sudden they have an offensive line. They have a shit ton of cap space too. So my other thought, we talked about Des Bryant earlier. If Andrew Luck's arm's okay, why the hell not bring in Des Bryant?
I think you mentioned that last week as a point, and that's a fair point.
Bring in Des on the other side of T.Y. Hilton.
They have the best coach in that division as well.
Why can't I think of who? Oh, Frank Reich, sure.
They have that's the best coach in that division.
I'm a big Bill O'Brien fan, though. Actually, I really am. I think he's a hell of a coach. But yeah, all of a sudden that team actually looks legit. They need way more on defense. But if Andrew Luck's healthy, they got something going on. The Titans were a playoff team last year. They were a playoff team that went into Kansas City and won a game in the playoffs. Now you have Mariota and an offense that fits him much more, is going to fit his skill set much more. You have Corey Davis a year more mature and a year more developed and developing chemistry with Mariota. So I think that's another team with Derrick
Henry's your bell cow now.
with Deion Lewis as the other back. I like that dynamic a lot between those
nice
two.
duo.
You still have Delaney Walker, who's a solid tight end. I like, and their offensive line's very good.
So the draft for last year for the Colts, it was Malik Hooker.
Right. I forgot about Malik Hooker. He's a damn player.
Quincy Wilson, cornerback, Florida.
I didn't love Quincy. It was 2 years ago then. I apologize.
Okay. Well, I mean, on this thing, though, I mean, they did draft in the 4th round Marlon Mack, so, I mean, that's another.
Marlon Mack's a solid player.
Yeah.
He's a solid running back prospect, yeah.
So I'll go back if you want. I can go.
I think it's the year before that. Yeah, Ryan. I believe it was Ryan Kelly. He's a center from Alabama. Smart kid, tough kid.
Ryan Kelly.
Yeah.
Center, Alabama.
So, I mean, all of a sudden, the interior of their line is solidified.
Mm-hmm.
So they should be able to run the football, and they should be able to protect Andrew Luck. So that's a pretty big deal.
No, it's all valid points. I'm just not a believer yet in Andrew Luck. I got to say it.
He hasn't thrown the ball in
But
2
I
years.
agree with you. If
It's
he's good to go, then the Colts are always a force to reckon with Andrew Luck's on the field. So it's tough not to include them. I almost forget because it's been so long since he played. I don't even think of them.
I know.
But I'm sticking with my 2.
One thing is to start getting fun now in the chat. Sean Taylor, resident Redskins fan, he likes to come on Wednesdays and rile us up a little bit.
Oh, cool.
Came a day early. Says, well. Says, looks like the Sixers still suck. He's a Redskins guy, if you couldn't tell by the name and the hashtag HTTR, hashtag sleepers of the NFC, hashtag 21.
Is he also a Washington Wizards fan?
Wait, I'm curious, Sean, are you one of those suite holders who was at that little party in 2013? I'm curious. I'd like to know.
So
I'd like to
this
know how that
guy-
party was.
We like to say on
No, I
Wednesdays,
like Sean. I've seen Sean in the other chats.
Sean Taylor is a guy who has so much to say but has not 1 ounce of self-awareness.
Sure.
So he's talking about the Sixers, and then Foolish Demon reminds him, saying, oh, just as good as the Wizards, who, I'm sorry, aren't really playing anymore.
I think they got bounced in the first round.
I think they're on the golf course the last few weeks, buddy. It's okay. You'll catch up. He also says, my Western Conference team
Oh, here we go.
is better than both, so really the joke's on you.
Who's his? Okay.
Wait. Who's the Western Conference team?
Hashtag go Rockets.
Oh, get out of it. Oh, yeah. It must be really hard to root for a team with the league's MVP and Chris Paul. Yeah, you're really going out on a limb there, bud. Jesus, God. Get out of here. My Western Conference team.
He said the Colts still blow, looks good on paper, but can't execute. He said, I also heard their head coach is a basket case.
Frank Reich?
He's. I read his comments for 5 minutes, and I get frustrated and I leave him alone.
He's just
He's saying shit
Yeah.
to say shit. Yeah.
So he brings up the Sixers. The one thing he actually supplied me is actually brought up a Sixers thing. So that's a good transition to a question I'll ask you guys and the
cool.
people at home. So I'll ask you a broad question, all right? It's not necessarily Sixers, it's just team. Would you, as a fan, if you can put yourself in the organization's shoes, would you go into an offseason making a move or moves that would put you in the driver's seat to be an instant contender or even a favorite to win a title next year, if that also meant that puts a risk into sacrificing the long-term, and I mean long-term future of your team? Would you do it? So basically, if you can guarantee a almost lock at a championship for 1 year, and that would be next year, would you do it, also knowing that it could risk the value for years and years and years to come? Would you do it?
If you feel as though you have a championship team and you are one move away from becoming that championship team, you have to go for it. If you believe you are a championship team, you have to go for it. While it's in front of you, you have to.
Grom, agreed?
Agreed.
Windows are small, man. They can close pretty quickly.
So I'll jump back to that in a second. Sean Taylor says, Ben Simmons is not a rookie, and even if he had a slight chance of winning Rookie of the Year, he blew it in the series. Genius. It's called the postseason, all right?
It's a regular season award. It's already been voted upon.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing.
Foolish Demon says, I can't lie. I jumped on the Sixers bandwagon, so I kind of have a Western and Eastern Conference team. But Foolish Demon, at least you're classy about it, my man.
Yeah.
You're
different.
self-aware.
Yeah.
You're self-aware.
Yeah. And you can't come in here bragging about your West Coast team. It doesn't work that way, dude.
He comes in every friggin' week, and he talks about how good the Redskins are, and then he tried taking a shot
That's
at us
cool.
for saying we don't have championships, and I said, genius, we won one last year.
What?
He took a shot at the Phillies when and he's an Expos fan. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm wrong. They're not in Montreal anymore. They're the Nationals. For now, they're the Nationals.
They're the biggest choking city in all of sports.
Fair. He says Ben Simmons, don't get me wrong, would be an MVP if he built a time machine and went back to 1975 when shooting didn't matter. He's constantly being compared to Magic, but people forget Magic made a 3-point shot in his rookie season.
Actually, if you go back and look at the stats, Magic Johnson, I think, shot, I'm not exaggerating, like 20% from three.
He was awful.
Yeah, he couldn't shoot.
Magic actually didn't have the self-awareness that Ben does because Ben knows he can't shoot.
Yeah.
Magic didn't. And that's not a shot at Magic.
No, not at all. It's just the reality. Magic couldn't shoot when he first came in the league. Look up the stats.
So Simmons can make a couple flashy passes. Awesome. How just like the Harlem Globetrotters. Yeah, that's a team you can root for, Sean Taylor, because that's fake. That's fake. The reason why I ask you that question, by the way, getting back to real things, on would you risk it all, hypothetically, would you risk putting your entire franchise for years and years to come in order to win now? And we both say yes. And I would assume a lot of people would say yes. The reason why I ask that?
The only thing that I would not risk is Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Anything else is available if need be to get it done.
Well, that's the one problem with what you said. The reason why I ask that, it's the people who say they would risk it all, or at least put all the eggs in the basket to win now, they want LeBron James here.
Sure.
I want LeBron James here.
Yes. So, and we all understand that if LeBron James comes here, that's also not a one-way ticket saying Ben Simmons is going to be a non-factor. But somehow, some way, that got lost in translation with all these people on the internet by saying, oh, LeBron comes here, they better win now, because if they don't, the Sixers go back to square one. I don't understand that.
If anything, I think
not true.
You talk about things that could set you back. I think if you go out and get a Kawhi Leonard because of the assets it costs, that's more likely to set you back. Not because he's not a super talented guy that would fit in on the team, but because the whole process is built, A, to sustain longevity, have assets, not just now, continue to have assets. Oh, and by the way, to attract free agent top-tier talents to this team to put with the young core that's built. People think that this process was about just drafting until you got two superstars and build around them. No, the process, that was to set the core to where everybody knows in this league. The way the league is now, you need three superstar players to even have a sniff of a guarantee to get to a conference final at this point. It's just the way the league is. What the Sixers had to do because of the organizational position they were put in with Billy King and all these different guys who came in before Sam Hinkie, all before Sam Hinkie, R.I.P. Thanks, buddy. They had to wash all that away and rebuild it from the bottom and build a young, exciting core of guys who I don't even think they could have anticipated hitting the home runs that they did with Embiid and Simmons, but to where the greatest players in the world, not just a LeBron, but a Paul George or, anybody who Kevin Durant next year, where these guys would look at this team and say, I'm the guy, the missing piece to get that team over. That's what the process was about, positioning yourself for the long term and to be able to get those assets along the way to get that success. So anyone who looks at it that way is out of their freaking minds.
And I just don't so I guess the argument is as far as so let's say they sign LeBron. The argument is it holds them back. Why? Because they think Simmons, it's going to get in the way of Simmons' development. Is that the thought process there?
That's the thought process. But in a minute, I'll say why that's the biggest misconception in sports.
So here's the thing. Last night, what happened? They put another point guard into the starting lineup last night, and Ben Simmons had the best game of the series so far for him. So obviously, it's not the same thing because one's LeBron James and one's TJ McConnell.
Although if you listen to Max Kellerman, who destroyed the Sixers, essentially saying that Ben Simmons is their biggest problem because they can't expect to start another point guard with him and him be effective because he needs the ball in his hands.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. If anything, having two players that can just handle the ball at easily, what a benefit that is. You're taking pressure off of each other. it just doesn't make the fact. So what? Brett Brown's going to say, you know what? These two guys are both really good passers. We can't have two really good passers playing on the court at the same time. What do you Come on, dude.
I love that
Look at what the Rockets did. Look what the Rockets are doing right now with James Harden and Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
When we went into the season, people questioned it and said, "Oh, there's no way. There's not enough basketballs on the court for these two." Well, look what they're doing. They're about to be in the Western Conference Finals. It's just a ridiculous thing to say that these two guys can't coexist. Why the hell can't they?
LeBron James can play any position on the court
and play with anybody.
And it's
he'd make Russell Westbrook. He'd take Russell Westbrook to the finals.
Well, two things with that.
And I don't think anybody other than LeBron could do that at this point.
You can take it as a rhetorical question, whatever. What is the best part of Ben Simmons' game? What is he known for? What's so special about him, other than the fact that he's a 6'10" point guard?
Court vision.
And? Court vision to do what?
Pass the basketball.
He is a distributor.
Yeah.
First off, if people watch games, they would understand this. What does he look to do? Almost to a fault. When he has chances to score, he still does this. He looks to distribute the ball. He will have a wide open lane at the basket to do a simple layup or a one-handed dunk, or hopefully, in this case, after that missed dunk, a two-handed dunk. He will look to distribute the ball. I'm getting so sick of people saying he needs to be 100% ball dominant. He's not ball dominant. He's ball dominant from the second he gets the ball after a team scores to half court. From then on, he's looking to pass. He's not someone who holds onto the ball and doesn't give it to a Covington or a Sarge or Embiid. That's not him. Someone that comes here like a LeBron would do nothing but thrive from that. LeBron, especially when you compare to this season, has never played with a ball distributor like Ben Simmons, and it's not close.
Never.
It's not close.
I actually, not to plug my own shit, but
Go ahead.
I wrote
Go
something.
ahead.
Plug it. Go for
Wrote
it.
something today on NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com which I listed So there was a report that came out. Chris Broussard, FS1, said that what LeBron is looking to do is play off the ball. He doesn't want to be that guy. He doesn't want to be the main distributor, doesn't want to be the main playmaker. He wants to play off the ball. So I did it. My piece was 4 reasons why that makes more sense for the Sixers for him to come here. He has led his team in assists every single season he's been in the NBA. One aspect of his game that I feel is underrated, he's actually really good without the ball. He moves well without the ball. He understands defenses. He understands how defenders are playing him. I'd actually be really interested to see how that would look. Him cutting, him making plays off the ball. I'd be interested to see it. Another thing, he can shoot the basketball now. He has a jumper now. This is not like it took him time. It took him roughly 8 years to become a consistent jump shooter, but he is now. He can hit jump shots. Then I also, like I already said, Ben Simmons being able to play with McConnell shows Ben Simmons can play with a point guard. He can play with another player that can handle the ball. If anything, it can make him better because it takes pressure off of him. And then another thing that I think is kind of interesting. So in LeBron's career, he's had 2 seasons in which he scored averaged 30 or more points a game. In both those seasons, the team's second leading scorer on the Cavs was Zydrunas Ilgauskas, and he was healthy and productive in both those seasons. And he has a very similar offensive skill set to Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
So
he can step out, he can hit a shot. He's not a lane clogger. If LeBron's going to the paint, Embiid knows I'm gonna get the hell out.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a clear out for LeBron, Embiid's smart enough to know, cool, I'm gonna let LeBron do his thing and I'm gonna get out of the paint.
Dion says the following: says you build around your stars Embiid and Simmons. A Paul George and even a LeBron James will help at least for 2 seasons. Then by that time, Ben will come into his own, just like playing with a playing with a great one like LeBron, who could still run with these young cats, on to this day, after 15 years. Listen, man, people can dislike LeBron for what they call the antics on the court. Yeah, listen, he cries, he does that. Listen, Magic does it, Russell does it, Draymond does it, Durant does it, hell, even Steph Curry does it. In this point, Embiid does it.
Oh, yeah,
Have you
Embiid
seen
does it a
Dario
lot.
do it? I've thought numerous times, is he going to punch this ref?
In fairness to Dario,
Dario
I'm
gets-
not
yes.
never gets a call.
I'm
He
not.
does not
But
get
here's the
calls
thing.
ever.
I'm not criticizing
I would be that
any of
way
them.
if I never got the calls.
I'm
but-
not criticizing
Right,
any of them.
I don't
That's just
criticize him. It
That's
is what
just
it
the
is.
culture of that's just the NBA. Unfortunately, the refs don't necessarily get along with the players, and in most cases, I side with the players because the way we criticize these refs, would you blame them? Would you blame a LeBron when, listen, he gets a lot of calls, which,
Sure.
Another thing, don't you want a guy that has a lot of
Yes,
calls on
I
your
want to get to the
team?
damn free throw line. Yep.
So you can say, hey, I don't like LeBron. He's a crybaby. Hey, LeBron, he's Mr. Social Media. He does all that stuff. Listen, he's never gotten in trouble. He's a
Nope.
winner. He's made 7 straight finals. And this playoff series with no one around him, he is doing something no one has done in the history of basketball. So if people want to go on their high horse and say, "Oh, I don't want LeBron. I'd be upset if LeBron came here." Then you don't look out for the future of the 76ers. Because I truly believe that ever since the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and the narrative was, "Oh my God, we did it without Carson Wentz. Oh my God, we did it with Nick Foles." That's just the Philly way of doing things. I feel like there's some misconception that in Philly, we have to do that when we win championships. We have to have some underlining storyline of, "Oh my God, we were the underdog. We did it without our guy. We did it without LeBron." No, you're going to take a championship however you get it.
Yes.
Because a parade is pretty damn fun, isn't it, Philadelphia? We
Yeah.
had some fun that day. So I'm sorry, guys. If you don't want LeBron here, if you don't want any other outside big name coming here, I don't know what to tell you. I don't.
So I gotta go on a sidetrack rant, and I'm sorry about this. But this.
I'll get the bed ready. That's fine. Thank you for prepping me.
So this is a. So I think it was Dion who touched. It was either Dion or Foolish Demon who touched on it. You want Paul George here. You want LeBron James here, and they'll help you for 2 years. They'll make you a championship caliber team for 2 years, and they will help bring the culture up and make that be the expectation and help out Embiid and Simmons. But we keep leaving out one name. Markelle Fultz. And here's what it is. Coming into this draft, if you were following the draft, everyone knew Jason Tatum was the most polished player in this draft. Everyone knew it. Even if you loved Markelle Fultz, even if you thought Markelle Fultz is the best player in this draft, everyone still said Jason Tatum was the most polished player in this draft. I thought, other than Simmons, he was the most likely player to win the Rookie of the Year. And it played out that way. He's done a phenomenal job. Jason Tatum is a very good basketball player. I take nothing away from Jason Tatum. But for people to say, 2 19-year-old kids, that this is already what they are. Jason Tatum is definitely better than Markelle Fultz. He's going to have a better career. We're done. That's it. Wrap it up. Markelle Fultz is 19 years old. He barely played this season. Give the kid a chance to play before you already mark his career as a bust, before you already get upset at Colangelo for trading up picks to get him. We don't even know what this kid is yet. It's just, and here's the thing too. We get the Philadelphia media, they get upset. Oh, Joel Embiid didn't play for 2 years. Oh, he's probably never going to play a game. Oh, Dario Saric is staying overseas. He's never coming over. Oh, Ben Simmons, he could have played at the end of the year. His foot was healed enough. We could have played him at the end of the year. This kid played, and you still give him shit. Like, Embiid didn't play for 2 years, and now he's a star. Simmons didn't play for a year. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year. Sarge didn't play for his first 3 years, and now he's one of the, I could argue he's the third best player on this basketball team right now. Markelle Fultz played his rookie year, and it didn't go great. He got hurt. He didn't play well. He showed flashes, but he didn't play consistently well. He had to get benched in the playoffs because he wasn't effective. He wasn't ready for that pace and that physicality. But, my God, he's a rookie. He's 19 years old. Give the kid a freaking shot to play before you bury him, before you already say, oh, Jason Tatum's a better player. Like, come on. That counts. That means everybody that Joe, Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker played their first 2 seasons. Does that mean, were those people already saying, oh, well, they're better than Joel Embiid because they're already playing, so they're already better? No, it doesn't work that way. It's a career. It plays out. To think a guy can't develop is just asinine. It just drives me nuts.
At the end of the day,
No, and you did hear idiots who chirped that when Joel Embiid was hurt and then got hurt last year.
Exactly.
They said, he's a bust. He's a bust. He's
Take
never going to be
Wiggins.
anything.
Now-
He's the
and
next
now-
Greg Odom.
And now everyone would not take Joel Embiid over Andrew Wiggins every freaking day of the week.
Watch every single show when you have former NBA players and analysts and all that. Every one of them says there is no center in the league and hasn't been for a long time of the caliber of Joel Embiid.
Well, let's be completely
Easily.
transparent as well. Why didn't, for all of those people that, especially Sixers fans, that have fallen in love with Jason Tatum, I'll ask you guys, why didn't they draft Jason Tatum? Because there's a reason why the Sixers didn't draft him.
Fit.
And who did we already have? Someone that they, Chrome, you and I criticize him a lot.
Oh, here we go. But
I know, I'm not blaming anything. I'm just saying this is why. No, you understand
what
what I'm
he's
saying?
saying? No, he's agreeing with your point of fit. They already
Yes.
felt like they had the
I know,
role
but
player
I
in
don't.
there.
But here's my thing though too. I'm not. If you think Jason Tatum is that good, you're not taking him because of Robert Covington. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no way. Like, if you think Jason Tatum is that good, you're not taking.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's my point. Like, there's no position. Like, if you think a guy's that special, there's no way that you shouldn't take him. And my thing is too. It wasn't just me, and it wasn't just Brian Colangelo. It wasn't just a few people. Most people thought that Markelle Fultz was the best player in this draft.
Well,
Most people thought that. It wasn't like this crazy notion that it's not, like I honestly, when I looked at the draft, I thought that Jason Tatum was the fourth best player on the board. Fourth. So, I mean, and I could wind up being wrong. I'm not already definitively saying that I was wrong. So far, Jason Tatum looks like the best player that was drafted this year. Is it going to be that way their entire careers? I don't know. But right now, yes, out of the players that were drafted this season, Jason Tatum has been the best so far. But it's a long time to judge this draft.
When Markelle Fultz was drafted, this is not something you hear a lot in the NBA, they drafted Markelle Fultz because he was considered the best player available. You talk about it, best player available in football, usually. You can talk about it in the NBA, but most of the time it's football, best player available. Usually in the NBA, just because it's a more refined roster, obviously, it's about fit. They took a point guard when we already had a point guard, someone who they believed was going to be transcendent. He was pick number 1, Ben Simmons. And they said, okay, this kid is so talented, we're going to take him based off of talent, and we're going to revamp his game in the offseason to make him a 2 guard. So 2, people at home that are panicking on Fultz, he's playing out of position. He was hurt. Hello? He's 19. He was playing out of position. He was hurt. Of course, Jason Tatum's going to look better because he played all season, he's playing in position, and he's playing under a guy named Brad Stevens. Hello? Welcome to the NBA.
Also, too, like...
Well, I'm going to look at guys, and again, maybe for what our expectation is, people might be underwhelmed by some of the names that I'm going to use, but these are guys who have won championships. And they are guys who their first few seasons in the NBA were, I don't know if you would say disappointments, but they developed and refined their skills to be championship caliber players. And I look at the Detroit Pistons run, and I look at guys like a Chauncey Billups, and a Rip Hamilton, and a Ben Wallace, and even you could arguably say Rasheed Wallace,
his issues
part of his head issues, right. But I look at those teams as a prime example of a collection of guys who, for one reason or another, whether it was opportunity, it was upstairs, or it was just they needed to learn to play the position in the league, that when the switch went on for them, they became championship caliber players.
Chauncey Billups was considered a bust?
Chauncey Billups is one of my absolute favorite guys to watch, especially from that run with Detroit and then after that. And if you look back at his career, what a court general he became, it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
There's no – and now he's being looked at as not just a guy who was a great player for championship teams, but he's looked at as a great basketball mind who's now being floated out there as a top name for the Detroit Pistons job now.
Yep.
So there's no need to hit the panic button, okay? These guys,
one season.
he's a young 19-year-old kid. Now, were there concerns? And I think part of the issues is because of the way information was distributed by the organization,
Sure.
which didn't do this. It hasn't done him or anybody any favors. But no need to panic, guys. And I'm totally 100% with you. And I'm 100% with you. He's a guy who's out of position now. He's got to learn to play that position with Ben, because Ben ain't giving that position up anytime soon. And give the kid a chance. If you want to talk 2 years from now and say, all right, let's see where he's at 2 years, after 2 full years of playing in the league, cool. Listen, I agree. I think the last 10 games he played, you saw what he could possibly become. He's got to learn more and play more. And I agree. When it's playoff time, and this is where I think Brett has cost us some games even in this series, I definitely think that you want to stick with your guys and create a learning environment. But when it's playoff time, sometimes you gotta do what's got to be done.
Yeah.
And Markel's not ready for that spot. Similar to the other day, not that I don't think Ben should have came back on the court, but I don't think T.J. McConnell should have came off the court.
That's fair.
And I think that cost him. And they proved yesterday that those two could coexist on the court and play at a high level with energy.
If you recall, before Fultz came back, that Brett did that often. He often had TJ as like the two,
which is why I didn't understand why he took TJ out.
Yeah,
and
he wanted to see what he had in Fultz, which I can't blame him for.
No, I'm talking about
in the
Celtics game the other night. So relax.
Yeah,
guys, relax.
My thing is too. So I don't know. There was video of Markelle Fultz taking a three, and it looking very clean, and it splashing the net. Looked very good. So my point is this is a guy who shot over 40% from three in college. That shot's there. It's just got to be rediscovered. It's there. It's there. He'll find it. He needs to clear his head. This offseason, he'll find that shot. And if he does, he'll be fine. He shot really well in the Summer League, too. He shot the lights out. He had a shoulder injury. It screwed him up. It's a weird injury. It screwed up his muscles in his shoulder. He was all – and then it became mental. So I think he just needs a little time. He's got to clear his head a little bit, and then he's got to get back in the gym and start shooting again. He'll be fine.
Can I put my conspiracy theory hat on?
Oh boy.
Are we sure it was an injury? I don't care at this point. Like we're sure it's an injury.
Yeah,
we're sure they didn't try and adjust it and try and reinvent his shot, and he didn't get mental.
At this point, I don't care.
I don't care either.
I think it was an injury. I think it was an injury, and then it became mental after the injury.
I think
that's my theory.
I think he played at the end of the season. He showed me enough that he's going to be a spot here. He's going to be a guy who's going to be a focal point going forward.
I know we ripped him to shreds earlier. Breaking news as well. Donovan Mitchell helped to the locker room with apparent leg injury in the fourth quarter.
Oh, I don't want to hear about that. Yeah.
So
that sucks.
That does.
Yeah, you don't want to
The other thing as well is that people need to understand people were panicking saying, oh, my God, they're not playing Fultz. They're not playing Fultz. People at home, if TJ wasn't playing so good, who do you think would be playing right now?
And that's what it is. It's less of a product of Fultz playing poorly and more of TJ McConnell just being the more proven, like the more battle-tested player. That's the way I would put it. He's the more battle-tested player. He's got that energy, gives him a little boost. He gives him more defense. The biggest thing out of what was going on with McConnell last night, I don't know if you saw the stats, but when he was on Rozier did nothing when TJ was in the game. And in contrast, TJ scored when Rozier was in the game. So he exploited Rozier defensively, and he shut down Rozier offensively. So I mean that was huge. That's a big part of it, and that's a big as much as I like Fultz and I'm going to defend Fultz. Fultz could have done that.
I
Bottom line.
100% agree.
Now that Terry Rozier, I'm not saying he's out of the series, but I think TJ takes him out of the game. Honestly,
he neutralizes him. Yeah.
I'll give you. Who is your biggest concern as far as a player? For me, it's 100% Al Horford.
Yeah, I'm with you now.
Tatum still.
Yeah. I mean, Tatum's the better all-around player, and then you have Jaylen Brown. But as far as for me, someone who's shut down Embiid, someone who shut him down both offensively and defensively, has made it the key shots.
He's made it very difficult for Embiid.
Yes.
I think I've swayed. I did say Tatum originally. I definitely think I think that's who I'm worried about now is Al Horford. And I think Al Horford has just maintained that level throughout every single game. And he's a veteran guy, man.
Mm-hmm.
Guy knows how to freaking win.
Oh, Hector Darrish just closed the door, baby. Phil's win.
4-2.
Phil's W.
Nola, 1 earned run.
Yep.
1.
He's been unbelievable.
Here's my question as well. As far as the series still happening, what are your predictions? Because hopefully not. You know what? No, by the time either way, if they get eliminated earlier, it goes to a Game 7. By the way, Todd Womack chimes in saying Philly guys from the night shift. What's going on,
Philly,
Todd?
brother. What up? What I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna say winner or loser because obviously the Sixers lose again, they're out.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, if they get to Game 7, I'm still not picking a winner. But I am 100% behind and confident that if the Sixers can steal this game in Boston, there will be a Game 7. They will come home and win.
That's what I would say too. I'd say that if it's either honestly, it's going to go either they're going to get eliminated tomorrow night or it's going 7. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm 1,000% behind that, and I'm not going to pick a winner in Game 7.
You can't. It's so hard. You can't really.
The only way I could maybe then lean a certain way is if the Sixers come out and smoke them the next 2 games. That's a big momentum shift. But again, you're going into a tough place to play in Boston that can neutralize that.
Yeah.
So
you guys both say, if they survive tomorrow, it goes to 7. But you're not going to pick a winner.
I just can't pick a winner.
All right, I will. I say that if they win tomorrow, they're winning the series.
Okay.
I have no doubt in my mind. Momentum is a huge part of this game. I feel that if they find a way to win tomorrow on the road, that means they found something again. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not expecting TJ to put the team on his back again and win. So if they win tomorrow, that means they found something with Embiid. They somehow found something with Simmons or something. Something else, another adjustment, because Brad Stevens is going to make another adjustment to counter McConnell. So that means Brett Brown needs to make an adjustment on top of that.
Yeah, but here's my thing would be this. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, Brad Stevens is a great coach, so he's going to do something. But I don't know what he does because you don't want it. Rozier's been their third, I guess I would say their third best player in the series.
Well, their key injury as well.
Larkin.
So,
so what do you do? Yeah.
They can't play small.
Yeah, they can't really play small.
It's going to be interesting to see how that affects the game. Full.
And Jaylen Brown, man, that hamstring. You could still that Jaylen Brown, that hamstring still ain't right.
Oh,
that
I
thing's
agree.
Lingering.
Well, he's still limited on minutes as well.
Yeah, he's only
and I think
25.
he's been extremely. He hasn't been disciplined at all when it came to the fouls. I mean, he was. It seemed like after 7 minutes in the first, he was up to 3 fouls already.
Yo, here's another thing. Speaking of discipline. How are you going to call a double T on Rozier and Embiid when a Rozier swung at him twice and Embiid didn't swing back?
I agree with you. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's the refs trying to keep control of the game because they know Embiid is – I'm not comparing him to Draymond because it's not comparable.
No.
Embiid doesn't get in fights like Draymond does, but Embiid pokes at you.
Instigates. Yeah.
And if Embiid saw, oh, my God, I got away with that. It's going to keep happening. Going to keep happening. He would do it to a Marcus Morris, and Marcus Morris, he might do a little bit more than a Terry Rozier.
Yeah, Marcus Morris will.
It's protecting the stats of the game.
He's going to bring his North Philly boys out.
There's guys who take cheap shots, and guys who poke and prod literally, and then there's guys who just get in your head. Reggie Miller, the king of that shit. Kevin Garnett, although Garnett he could go drive it. Are you reading the comment I read? Probably, but I said you probably read the one that I read on there.
I'm reading the foolish one. Yeah.
But
I want to know.
Well, no, the one he said he's gonna if the Sixers win the series, he's jumping on the bandwagon, which is totally fine.
He's leaving his 24-year allegiance to the Portland Trailblazers.
Wow,
God bless
that's
you,
a hell of allegiance.
But I forget my point now. I forgot where I was at. That's okay. I lost my train of thought there. Damn you, foolish demon.
No, I honestly think, man, if they win tomorrow, and I'm not saying I think they're winning tomorrow, I'm saying if they win tomorrow, they're winning the series.
It's not that much of a hot take.
I'm sorry.
I definitely think it shifts a lot of things. Definitely shifts a lot of things.
The only game they've been out of really was game 1. And they just didn't look right. They coming off that long break, they didn't look right. That was the only game they were out of. They should have won game 2. They probably should have won game 3 too.
They definitively should have won game 3. That was a very poor, inexperienced decision by Ben.
Yes.
When you have the lead to throw up that rebound and try to put it back up when really you could have just tucked it and kicked it out.
They made a lot of bad decisions in that.
They had a foul to give. They would have fouled, and then you could have put the ball in JJ's hands, and you're shooting from the line with a lead.
Yeah.
That was a really, really and he didn't go up strong. That's the thing. I'm mad that he went up, that his instinct didn't tell him, okay, like understanding the situation. I'm upset with that. What pissed me off about it was that's where I came up with there's times where he's playing like a mental midget because he's a 6'10" point guard who can go up strong and dunk the ball, and there's this much space in between him and the defender, and he's fading back, taking a piss poor rushed putback attempt. It was just ugly.
You know what it is? It's and this was, I failed to see this when I said, before the series even started, this is what I failed to realize before I said Sixers in 6. Ben Simmons, you want to look at every time he's faced the Celtics, he has not had good games.
No.
So again, that comes back to going against good coaching. They adjust for him. And as a rookie, and I love Ben, I think he's going to be an all-time great, but at this point in his career, he's very adjustable. You can adjust to him very easily if you have the correct game plan.
You know what it is, though, too? What I liked at the last game, even though he wasn't hitting, I liked that he was taking shots. Because if you take shots, at least it makes the defense like they have to react to it if you're going to take a shot. They're going to have to react. And and God forbid you start hitting it, then they're going to have to adjust. Then they're really going to have to react to it.
The reason why
unless you're the Sixers and just let them continue to shoot from outside over and over and over and over.
The viewers on YouTube can't see me doing this, but the reason why I held up the 2, Chrome, is not to signal we have 2 minutes left. It's because they should have won game 2 as well.
Oh, for sure.
Game
1's the only game they shouldn't have won.
Yes. And again, game 1 was arguably their worst shooting game of the season compared to the Miami game.
Here's the other thing, too. They still haven't had – so I don't take any credit away from Boston's defense in the way they defended the three-point line. With that said, they've missed some open looks in this series, too. They have not had that game where they have just gone off. It's got to come. So they could have – so let's say – what if they just go and have bonkers shooting nights 3 games in a row? It's not far-fetched to think it could happen.
It could happen.
To have J.J. Redick and Bellinelli just both have those games where they just go off.
Well, Redick has not been very good. Bellinelli has not been very good. I
disagree. Redick actually has been good. If you go back and look at the stats, Redick has been good. He's been shooting well for most of the series. I think the last game was I can't remember.
He did not have a good game last night. He did not.
No, but if you look the first 3 games of the series, he's actually been pretty consistent. He's been hitting shots.
I guess I'm comparing it to. I'm kind of comparing it to the end of the season.
Had a rough series.
Yes, well, that's and
he's had a rough series.
So at the end of the season, and arguably during the Miami series, you had guys like Ersan, Bellinelli, Redick, who were just shut down, and then obviously to this point, not really so much. Redick, and I agree with you. Other than last night's game, he has been the best out of those 3, especially. Yeah, or out of those 4 as far as the shooters.
Yeah,
Covington.
So if you look at the games 1 through 3, he scored 20, 23, and 18.
How much did they lose by game 1? Was that 19, 17?
16.
16, okay. You could make the argument that they even had a shot in game 1. They had gotten it down to 6 points. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, at that point, they just started missing shots. But they came all the way back to cut it to 6 points with, I want to say there was about 6 or 7 minutes left in the game. Maybe even a little less. Might have been like 4 minutes. And I'm trying to remember. It might have been Ben. I don't remember if it was Ben.
Say that again. I'm sorry. I was reading Sean Taylor.
Oh, yeah. He's leaving. Good night, Sean.
Nighty-night.
Have a good one.
No, there was a point there where they had come back. Maybe it was a missed shot by Ilyasova. I'm trying to remember who missed the shot. They went for a three-pointer. And then at that point, Boston came back down, scored. Another piss-poor shot coming back. Boston came right back and scored.
I want to say it was Bellinelli.
I don't think that play was Bellinelli.
Either way, they had an opportunity.
Point is, as bad, and I mean that game, it was glaring. How that was the game that they were shooting the lights out, 47% from three. And we were shooting like absolute dog shit that had been stepped in. And they still had a chance with plenty of time on the clock to come back and close that game out.
I do want to read the comment because this is a new name.
Yeah.
Kevin2512 Belgrade says, if Markelle Fultz is not playing tomorrow night, the 76ers need to fire Brett Brown. GM's clean house with front office. Kid is so talented. Good of a point guard, basketball player. I feel sorry for him. I hope, Kevin2512, that's an extreme exaggeration. Listen, I would love to see Markelle Fultz play. I think he should be playing. I don't think he should be a bench warmer by any means in this series. Listen.
Where do you find the minutes for him right
Listen,
now?
I'm going to disagree. I think at this point, he's going to have plenty of opportunities to play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be this year. He hasn't played enough. And he's proven, as Paulie said earlier, he wasn't effective against Miami.
No.
And in the meantime, you have an option by the name of TJ McConnell, who every time he's on the court is putting them in a position to make a run and win the game. You have to go with the guy who's going to help you win. That's the playoffs. One thing I hate is when guys get too stubborn and stick with their guy. I go back to this. In baseball, 2006 NLCS, Scott Rowland played like shit. Scott Spezio, with his soul patch, his red soul patch, started lighting the world on fire. And Tony La Russa said, sorry, Scotty, you got to sit until you figure it out. We're going with the hot hand. And guess what? They came back, upset the Mets, and then came back and steamrolled the Tigers in the World Series. Sometimes you got to make that call.
Yeah, there's plenty of
you
examples
play the
like
best
that, yeah.
player who is producing. And honestly, arguably, TJ has been the biggest igniter on this team in the series.
Yeah.
So Markelle will have plenty of chances to play in the playoffs in his career.
Yeah.
I am 100% confident with that.
The Rockets have officially eliminated the Jazz, by the way. So.
See ya.
Guys, great show tonight. Paulie, great show. Chuck's great show. Oh, Ryan, great job over there, buddy. Guys, if you joined us on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, thank you guys for joining us for some Eagles-Sixers talk, some Ben Roethlisberger talk this week.
Piece of human garbage.
Piece of shit. We're doing baseball next week. We're going to have a baseball segment. He don't know what he's talking about with baseball, so when he's not here, that's when we can have some fun. So, Charles, I know you're going to go back and watch this. We're doing baseball next week. But, guys, thanks for joining us. All of our sponsors, obviously BMW of Atlantic City, sponsoring the studio here. Stream Smart, Scanzano Sports, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountant. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Have a good week. You guys are off tomorrow, right?
Yes, we are off tomorrow.
You're off tomorrow?
I'll see you on Thursday.
AM and the PM is on tomorrow, off tomorrow?
I believe so. I can't speak for that. I believe so.
Okay. So you could take a look and see if they're going to be on, but don't forget we got Lazy Booking, Hockey Happy Hour. For all you hockey fans, it's playoff time. Check it out. Obviously, agree to disagree on Sunday. Monday, we got the Sports Hounds. Lots of great stuff on this station, guys. So until next week, have a good week. Go Sixers.